My 20-year marriage ended when I discovered my husband was cheating with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend, causing immense family turmoil. I'm going to use pseudonyms for anyone I reference in this post. I, 41, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, 48, whom we'll call Paul, works in finance. We have been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids, whom we'll call Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son Eric has a girlfriend, 18, whom he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his cock. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because, over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I had never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely fucked up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any fucking sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Further info from OP to not have my initial post be long-winded because I didn't think I needed to get into the minutiae of this, I didn't bother going into those details. How I inadvertently saw it was this: he was on his phone, he did not have iMessage open currently on the screen, but the application was still open. You know how on the iPhone when you swipe up it shows all of the applications that are open and you can close them. When he was closing out the applications, something he does compulsively, I noticed it. It's not like he was some kind of idiotic buffoon having a message open for all to see. I saw he forgot he had the application running when he swiped up from a completely different app. Also, I did say in my post that I went back to his phone to actually solidify my suspicion on a different day. So you are incorrect in asserting that I'm now magically changing my story. I am being consistent. Relevant comments. Comment 1. If she's freshly 18, isn't this illegal? There's no way they weren't doing anything illegal before she turned into an adult. Also, even if the age gap is over 3 decades, our husband is suspected ASF, police immediately. OP, she's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to gauge when their affair started. I'm trying my hardest to figure that out. He deletes his texts every couple of weeks it seems like, so I haven't been able to pinpoint when this whole thing started. OPADs in the comments. Thank you everyone for overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to it when I can. Dealing with a lot right now and taking a lot of steps that need to be taken. I'm trying to be smart and strategic with this truly surreal and terrible situation I'm in. I want to be clear that not telling my son about this was never something I was considering. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. I was just saying I'm intensely dreading it, but obviously it needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps of my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb and collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything and everything. I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post a more thorough update soon when I can. But please know, you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. Update 1. I'm using pseudonyms for confidentiality. I shared a situation a few days ago on another subreddit involving my 41F husband, Paul, 48M our children, Eric, 18M and Mary, 15F. I discovered that Paul was having an affair with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend, Amy. My son has been dating her since they were freshmen in high school. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18, 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy. Justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Relevant comments. Comment 1. How is your son holding up? What has developed between him and Amy? OP. He hasn't spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news and I'm not sure if he ever will again. Comment 2. Have you confirmed if the thong you found was Amy's? The situation is fucked up. OP. I confirmed that it wasn't my daughter's. She said it wasn't hers. And I know it wasn't mine. So who else could it be? Comment 3. Wait. Are you saying that they fucked in the master bedroom? Comment 4. Don't cheaters always use their married bed? OP. Yes, I believe he did. OP adds in the comments. Both me and my son are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mom has been in contact with me and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. Update 2. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings, which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful, and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I am refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far that we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days, we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell-shocked, and I'm concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think he deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he would be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently, they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot. Like looking at her rear and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that has been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason why I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes that they are in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes I took away his devices and am very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-colored glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped it. According to her mom, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she takes better care of him than I do. It's in line with some of the conversations I screenshot, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slimeball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment. Maybe eventually though. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Reading all the previous posts, I honestly get the vibe that your husband wasn't a very good one to begin with. Someday, when you're ready, you're going to find someone who thinks you're glorious as you age. Your son is also going to be okay. He's gotten a lesson on exactly how men shouldn't behave. A painful one, but in time, he's going to realize that Amy was groomed and abused. It sounds like she was vulnerable, and your ex took advantage of a child who was in a bad situation. Hopefully once Amy has had some time to process just how messed up this was, she'll tell the police the whole story. I fully believe something was happening before she turned 18 OP. I believe stuff happened before she was 18 too. Comment 2. Do you think they kept that relationship secret for most of Eric and Amy's relationship? What a disgusting father and pig if that is truth. OP, I'm not sure when things got actually physical or romantic, but I do think his grooming started as soon as she came into the picture when Eric started dating her freshman year. This mentor and a friend that Amy alluded to had to start right away, and the way she's acting now, being so indebted and believing every single thing he says, shows that his effect on her had to be over a long period of time. She only turned 18 like 5 months ago. Her behavior and infatuation for him seems so strong that it couldn't possibly be only 5 months of them being together. Comment 3. If they are consenting adults, then there is nothing to report. This is a personal problem that needs to be dealt with by attorneys and the people involved. People are way too jumpy to snap to the police to fix their problems anymore. OP is handling this the correct way. If any legal issues come into play, then her attorney will do the right thing. OP. The only thing we can really hang our hat on is the possibility of Amy having an epiphany of the reality of her situation, and she opens up candidly about when it began. But because she's 18 currently and has no interest in saying or doing anything that could potentially put Paul in legal trouble, nothing really can be done. Unless they find out about other girls that I have no idea about yet. Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to visit my cousin's house because of her autistic son's behavior? My cousin and I both have 2 children who are the same age. We have 12-year-old boys and 11-year-old girls. Her 12-year-old son, Damien, is autistic and has a lot of issues that we believe are unrelated to autism, but we are no experts on the subject. My 12-year-old son, Christopher, loves hanging out with Damien because he enjoys knowing that he brings some sort of joy to Damien's otherwise rough life. Damien has been kicked out of every school he has attended, so he has no friends. Our daughters are the best of friends as well. They are basically inseparable. Well, about 2 weeks ago my cousin asked if she could take my kids for the week. COVID outbreak at school, so school was called off anyways. I said that was fine after asking the kids if they wanted to go. Everything was perfectly fine for the entire week, I thought. I checked on the kids often. They seemed happy and to be having fun. However, that all changed when I picked my kids up. That's when they told me all the weird shit Damien was doing. Such as my daughter would wake up to Damien stroking her hair or arms while she slept, and when she caught him, he pretended to be asleep. He went into his sister's room at some point during the night against his parents' rules. I guess he also told my daughter several times that he likes her, and when my daughter told my cousin about it, she basically said it's okay to have crushes, but where you're related, you simply can't act on it. I guess he also kept trying to take pictures of her. I'm unsure whether or not she corrected her son's behavior by touching my daughter in her sleep. However, I do know that not once did she tell me anything that happened. My kids did, while she kept it hush-hush. After finding all of this out, I called my cousin and said that my kids would no longer be allowed there because my daughter now felt uncomfortable around Damien. She is pissed because he doesn't mean it. It's not like he went out of his way to be weird. He doesn't understand. It's his autism, but says she ultimately understands. However, she's still making me feel bad about it because her kid has autism and doesn't know why he isn't allowed to see my kids anymore, and I guess he has been having a lot of outbursts since that point. One of them resulting in her needing to call the police because he became violent and started throwing chairs. We couldn't save our 15-year marriage, because my wife friend-zoned me and wants a platonic companionship. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and we've been together for 20 years. We have 2 kids, 12, 14. We absolutely adore and work tirelessly to provide the best possible life for them. For the past 3 years, things have been somewhat bumpy. I understand that our kids are at an age where they require a ton of our attention and resources with school, band, club sports, and other extracurriculars, and I'm aware of the physical and emotional toll that can have on marriages. However, for these past 3 years, my wife and I have had very little intimacy and very little sex, and we've been trying very hard to work on that aspect of our relationship. This past year has been the most difficult and by far the darkest year in our marriage. We didn't talk very much. We essentially became roommates co-parenting our kids under the same roof. It was very depressing and very demoralizing. It was to the point where we began contemplating divorce, and it became very dark and gloomy in the household because of that. We began seeking help with both individualized therapy and couples therapy, and it seems to have helped some. Little by little we started to get along and started to have deeper conversations about what our marriage looks like and what we would love for it to look like. This is where it gets tough. As time passed, my wife started to tell me she no longer was in love with me, and that she only saw me as a best friend. That she only loved me in a very platonic way, and this was one of the main reasons she didn't have any desire for intimacy and let alone sex. This was very shocking to me, and quite frankly, I was devastated. I became angry and depressed, and I couldn't fathom the thought that I was no longer wanted or desired by the person I felt completely in love with. Things began to deteriorate again, and not long after, We were back to square one. I sat down with her one afternoon and had a heart-to-heart and began to ask questions about where the root of this problem lies, and her answer was I don't know, and that, I have built up resentment towards you but I don't know where it stems from. As you can imagine, this provides very little to no insight into how to approach this. I'm puzzled, I'm frustrated and I do not know what to do at this point. Currently, we've arrived at a place where she says that she has no sex drive and no desire for intimacy or connection. She says that all she wants is simply companionship, which basically means our co-parenting roommate dynamic. I asked her what I could possibly do or what is it about me that is so unattractive or undesirable and her response is always I don't know. She stated that she does love me but it's not the same. That she has been feeling disconnected for years and that our marriage just takes up too much work. Her focus is only the children for now and that my co-parenting contributions are meaningful to her in our home. I'm at a loss and I'm mainly venting about my frustration. It's tough to realize that the person you love has no feelings for you. I feel like at this point I'm only here to contribute financially and as a parent. I feel like what she means with companionship is that she's comfortable with the convenience of having a good father for our kids and my financial contribution to the household. In regard to intimacy and/or sex, she basically told me that it's not something she's interested in, or wants at this time. She mentioned that the only way to get to a point for any of that is to be intoxicated, which is incredibly awful and very wrong. I told her I do not think forcing herself to have sex or be intimate by drinking or smoking is good and I declined to be a part of that which to my surprise, it upset her and made her more distant. We're both extremely honest and transparent. We've never cheated on each other and we are always free to look through each other's phones, emails, socials, etc. And we hardly ever do. I asked her if there was someone else and she declined. Honestly, I believe her. We then peacefully went through each other's things and as expected it was clean. We've always been very forward, even with the hard topics so I don't smell or feel any foul play or infidelity. Am I wrong for declining to only be intimate or have sex when she's intoxicated? I'm firm on my stance of not partaking in this only when I'm high or drunk sex because it doesn't sit well with me. I do not know how to help our situation and I'm starting to become a bit anxious and desperate. We're both fairly young and healthy individuals and good looking. We both have good standing careers and are good parents. I'm just not sure how our lives could have driven us to this point. I'd love some outside perspective on this matter and some insight on how to address something like this. It feels so awful to be unwanted and undesired by my own spouse. I hate it. My wife of 15 plus years is no longer in love with me and doesn't know why and now says she can only have sex while intoxicated or I need to settle for a platonic sexless marriage and she doesn't know why that is but it is what it is and I'm in need of insight or advice. Relevant comments, missing reasons. Commenters looked at his history and found they were swingers. We did some swinging in the past. That was fun for some time. We mutually decided to stop doing it and we have established it's not the case. When we were swinging, however, our marriage seemed to be in a good place. This is something we did disclose with our couple therapist and made sure to include it to make sure we're not neglecting an obvious potential issue. I will say, I did ask my wife if what she experienced during swinging is something that is affecting her view on our relationship and she said it wasn't. Our swinging experience was always together and it was very sex-driven. Nothing really emotional or poly. Truth is, I have to believe her at her word. I have no reason to distrust her. To date, she's always been very forward and never afraid of dealing things head on. No matter how painful. If this is a consequence of swinging, this issue existed long before the lifestyle. I agree that swinging wasn't a solution in the end. Never was meant to be. It was more of discovering or exploring if she felt any different. If that was the case, we agreed we would talk about it and if we arrive at the conclusion that myself is the problem and she has no problem with other men, we would part ways amicably. However, this wasn't the case. She didn't like sex or intimacy there either. She was very much in control of that whole swinging situation. And yes, I went along with it. What gives? It felt very organic and it was her effort, if you will, to discover more and learn more about our current issue. I saw it as a means of learning if I'm the problem and was very much ready to accept that. It turns out it wasn't the case. 6 years of misery sound awful. I would very much hate that. OP on if this started when the swinging ended. Finally, a comment on the swinging topic with actual insight. You're absolutely right about the fact that the swinging experience had changes that will impact our marriage and lives forever. For example, the best thing swinging taught us, even above sexual exploration, was the level of transparent and open communication it requires. We would literally have mental orgasms having dialogue with such intentionality. We implemented that in all our lives and areas including parenting with our children. She even agrees that we're thankful for that takeaway from our swinging. Honestly, I cannot stress it enough with people here. Yes, we explored swinging. However, it was actually a positive experience. When we decided to stop, it was because it felt natural and organic to just do so. In fact, we met with that couple who we meshed super well with the night before. We actually enjoyed the actual friendship and even spent time as vanilla friends. So it wasn't because of something negative. Wife mentioned that it certainly wasn't any better, and since she's not enjoying the sex, we both agreed there's no point to this. I agreed and we moved on, and we're still friends with those people because it's great. All that said, I know, more often than not, swinging causes massive issues. However, this was something we explored in pursuit of a solution to an issue that was present way before. I think of it as taking a practical approach to trying to solve the problem. Update 1. I wanted to give you guys an update of how the therapy session with my wife went this week. Not sure if this is helpful or not, but I took many of the responses, comments, suggestions from my initial post and put together some things I wanted to discuss with our couples therapist to help us navigate some of the core issues that may be affecting this situation. One of the main things that is the buzzword of this has been the term resentment, and it has been really eating me up inside knowing my wife keeps telling me she doesn't know why she's resentful or doesn't know why this is affecting her emotionally, mentally. I brought this up with our therapist once again and resurfaced the conversation about being married for so long, 15 years, and being together since we were 14 years old. Our long history of growing up and how having children when she was 19 years old, me 20, significantly changed the trajectory of our lives. We experienced severe poverty and many hardships in the process, and we essentially had zero social life for the past 10 years because we were so busy raising babies, 2 kids now ages 12 and 14. She followed up with tons of questions directly, mostly from my wife about her feelings towards this, and 90% of the responses were very our kids focused. It definitely felt like she was afraid of saying yes it sucked, because she would feel guilt or shame because it would imply she regrets the kids. I mentioned this in the session, and the therapist encouraged her to look at this outside of the lens of being a mother and to try to view it a bit more selfishly and individually, and it was very eye-opening. My wife mentioned that she was very frustrated with the fact that we did miss out on many things in life. She also was very clear in saying, I do not think I missed out on other partners or dating or partying, but I certainly lost all my friends. This was huge because one of the big pieces that has caused a strain in our lives is how siloed and isolated we've been, again busy raising kids. I followed up by reminding her that it's important to have good friends and to make time for herself and her friendships. For the past 3+ years, we've had multiple conversations about friends and how it is important to have them in life. Especially when you have similar peers that can help in many areas of life that perhaps we have no experience navigating, and even simply for enjoyment. It has always been something my wife avoids, even though she's always been someone who needs that external stimuli. The main reason for her not investing in friends or even herself has always been the kids. Like I mentioned earlier in this post, 90% of the answers have to relate to the kids to some degree. At this point in our session, I started to feel like there was a common denominator, the kids, in most of the frustrations and problems she was experiencing. So I simply asked her, do you think you may be upset at me because I'm responsible for these kids in the sense that I got you pregnant so young? I wasn't ready, but she said that she was upset at me for that. She also followed up with the fact that she knows that's unreasonable because it takes 2 to tango. I did feel like it was progress because it kind of gave us something to work on and help alleviate some of these burdens, so we agreed to invest more time in nurturing good friendships both together and individually. Towards the end of the session, we began to discuss what actionable items we would take from this session. At this point, it was still all very ambiguous and blurry as to what the outcomes were. I was very direct and very forward in asking my wife what her plan is moving forward. Note, I had decided prior to the session that should my wife say the same thing about being a co-parenting roommate, that I would take the 180 approach and essentially do me. She started basically saying the same thing, that she doesn't have any desire to be intimate or sexual with me as of now, and that she loves me immensely and she feels bad for not being there for me, as mentioned in my first post. I also brought up the brief swinging that happened, to which for the 50th time said it wasn't a problem. I agree with her on this. This was something that was a mechanical approach for a solution to a problem that was very much in existence when we tried this. We, both, really have no issue with this. We know it happened, we tried it and mutually stopped and turned the page. I also brought up other life events that may cause resentment, and really we ended up not getting anywhere else as far as the root for resentment, which was discouraging. I then basically expressed to my wife that I will not be okay with that arrangement. I told her that I've really done everything I can and that this issue really has reached a point where it has nothing to do with me or requires me to do anything that I'm currently not doing. I was very direct and said that I will not be accepting this dynamic and that I need to be with someone who is actively involved in our marriage, works towards resolutions and is very much interested in maintaining an active intimacy and sexual relationship. I expressed how I'm not going to be a convenience, and that there was more to life than being roommates and co-parents. I made sure she knows I love her dearly and that I do want this to work for the better. I also told her that I'm fully committed to this marriage so long as she is as well, and that if she wasn't, it's okay. However, I will not be a part of something where these efforts are not reciprocated. I told her I have no plans of leaving, and I do not want a divorce. However, I made it clear that if this dynamic continues, that divorce will be the only outcome. Of course, tears were involved and it was a very bleak and sad ending to the session. Still nothing was said and I walked out very discouraged and very determined to start working on the 180 as soon as we left the room. It's painful and very difficult because much of the 180 requires you to be very short and cold and transactional. The saddest part is realizing, this dynamic already is very cold and transactional. Here's where it gets very interesting. I started working on implementing many of the 180 recommendations that same day. I mentioned to my wife that, hey, things are going to be a bit different moving forward. I'm going to honor her roommate co-parent dynamic without reproach and that it should be no mistake that I'm not happy here and I am never going to be okay with it, but I am done working on it if she wasn't going to work on it. She agreed and went to bed. I started to build distance and started to basically focus on myself. Very short and transactional. She asked for help on some of her personal things to which I declined and it really shocked her. She was upset saying I was being petulant. I explained to her that she is now fully in charge of her own life and her own issues. We didn't talk all day and we only spoke when necessary. Few days I keep this going and she's very visibly upset and stressed. I typically react to that with gestures of help or nurturing, but I didn't this time. That night she was crying, telling me she's stressed and she thinks something is wrong with me because I'm indifferent. I simply listened, then I told her that this is the dynamic she proposed and that I'm simply, much like her, taking care of myself and focusing on myself. I'm not going to lie, it has been very hard to be cold and distant because, as I mentioned before, I love her and I wish I could hold her and love on her. However, I know this is somewhat manipulative in a way just to get her way and still keep me in the friend zone. So I've been staying the course. We're now going on a week of this 180 and let's just say, there has been many changes on her side. I think she is starting to realize there is more to me than just friends and co-parenting. I sent her a text a few days ago essentially itemizing bills and separating the financial responsibilities 50-50ths and she lost her shit. She basically told me it was out of left field, to which I responded, hey, friends go in 50-50ths and as your friend I expect nothing less. This was very eye-opening because it gave me a glimpse of how I'm really taken for granted and how her level of comfort and convenience at my expense is really overlooked. I pushed through anyway and basically told her that this is the new dynamic she asked for and that it's still a bargain, because she would have to be 100% if she was on her own. I'll wrap up with this. While the 180 has been working in many different areas, I am still very much sad about the overall situation. There have been many eye-opening statements being said and realization that have not been pleasant to encounter. It has also sparked new energy and new efforts on her side as well. She's definitely seeking to talk to me more often, and while it's hard to turn down, I hope if things improve this continues to happen. I've also noticed that she's making more time for herself aside from being a mom, which is huge because she pretty much neglected herself for years. I'm very pleased seeing her be more herself. My hope is that as we work on ourselves, the marriage improves. There really is no telling at this point where this will go. We are very much cordial and amicable even to this day, and that's a very good sign. Boundaries are set and expectations are very clear, and I feel that no matter the outcome, I will be at peace with everything that has been done. We're still going to continue the couples therapist until we either rekindle our marriage or end up in divorce. I feel like having this unbiased third party really helps as a witness and as a guide through this. No matter what, I will always love my wife. However, I will not participate in a sexless, intimacy-less marriage because we both deserve better. Thank you all for all the kind words and recommendations and feedback. This will be my last post on this topic and I wish you all the best. TLDR. My wife friend-zoned me wants to just co-parent at my expense, but I started the 180 method to try and find a solution because she doesn't want to work on us, which seems to be working on getting her out of her rut and helping me discover more about how she feels. Also, therapy is paramount and highly recommended to all couples. Relevant comments. Comment 1. So, I'm going to assume that your wife has a lucrative job and you are both going 50-50ths on childcare, as you both work and share children. Because otherwise, this approach is just plain financially abusive, and if you're planning on saying I won't pay the bills unless you have sex with me, sexually abusive as well. Assuming that is the case and you aren't a total POS, I'm actually interested in how this works out for you. I feel like I'm in an unstated, similar situation. We both work and have blended finances, but we don't go to bed together or eat together, have barely any intimacy, a kiss or two, hugs every couple days, and spend maybe 8 hours a week together, just the three of us, him, me, and the toddler. Even less just the two of us, maybe 3 hours a week. Otherwise, he is on his game, or out playing sports, watching YouTube, or whatever else he does. It barely feels like a friend situation, let alone a marriage. I'm curious how she handles it, as the spouse that presumably was pulling away first. I hope you keep us updated. OP, yes, we both have degrees, good careers, and while I make significantly more money, her salary is very proficient and above average. The 50/50ths was not to cripple nor hurt her financially, that is cruel, but mostly to send a message on what a roommate dynamic looks like in the real world. I really dislike how people immediately jump to conclusions about the finances as a way of manipulating her. It's not the case at all. Plenty of money left over after bills. However, 50/50ths means she has less whatever money, and the understanding that roommates share everything equally. Prior to this 180 approach, we did everything together and with our kids. We always saw ourselves as a unit that does things together. Both alone and with the kids too. That's changed now where I'm choosing to focus on more independent types of pastimes and focus. That is what has sparked her reaction and realization of there's more than just roommates here. Comment 2. How does one dump half of the household expenses on the other person if they share a bank account? Or are your finances kept separately? Just curious how this would work if applied to my life. OP, excellent question. We shared everything. The proposed 50/50ths was suggesting we place the necessary amount to pay bills in the same account and any leftover money can be deposited to a new account. I think this is why she was very upset. She felt a huge loss of control knowing she won't be able to monitor my finances. Also, she felt a huge loss in her leftover money with this arrangement and saw that I would keep significantly more of my own. This is still being worked out because I think she is calling my bluff here, but my plan is to notify her next week as I modify my direct deposit and open a new account. It will definitely be more real there. To be clear, for all the trolls here, yes, she will have less leftover money after responsibilities and it's still enough to live on. Example, for reference. Assume I make $3,000 a month, she makes $1,000 a month. Responsibilities are $1,000 a month. So she'd contribute $500 and I would contribute $500. Where before she would contribute only $250. This is the last comment I'll add regarding money and finances. She's fine and she's not hurting. I promise when asked what if she leaves for another man interesting. She has no shortage of men hitting on her and we're by no means jealous people. So I've witnessed this multiple times and her reactions are somewhat indifferent. I will say, if another man for her was the answer, she'd tell me or she'd have some inkling maybe. There's no telling, but I think the problem is deeper than superficial attention from a different person. You might be right, and if this is the case, so be it. However, I'll live with peace knowing I left no stone left unturned. Crazy thought, I know I would be disappointed and saddened if she did leave for another man that would accept the bare minimum. But I'd also feel a peace knowing it's not all my fault. I know I'm responsible in some way to some degree. That's just marriage. I know sadness and depression will creep but we'll both overcome, but if this does happen at least there will be clear reasons and clarity as to why it did. Also, I know for a fact that she wouldn't cheat. We're both very blunt, open and transparent. She would definitely tell me that she wants to step out on our marriage before it actually happens. As would I. We owe ourselves this respect for each other and we actively practice it. New update. I debated for a long time on whether to submit an update on this matter. A few significant changes have taken place and I felt it would be good to not only share with you, but also to allow myself to process all of this in a uniform way. We're now almost 9 weeks in on the 180 method I mentioned I was starting and it started to render some positive reactions from my wife. I explained in the previous post that she started to notice things that she previously took for granted, started to ask more about my whereabouts and also started to notice I would go out with the kids more often without her and she started to invite herself, to which I didn't decline. So much has changed and it has changed for what seems to be for the better. This past Memorial Day weekend, my wife asked me if I wanted to go out for coffee because she wanted to talk to me about something. This was huge, because I can't recall the last time my wife asked to talk to me about something important. I must admit, I was very nervous and worried about what this could be about and my mind was racing with the plethora of scenarios of what it could possibly be. Of course I agreed, and we took some time away from the kids to have this conversation at a local coffee shop. The talk was very constructive in nature. There was a ton of insightful information about herself that helped me further understand where she is in life, both emotionally and mentally. We summarized what the core issues we are encountering are, and she asked me for help. This is new, and I cannot tell you how excited I was to hear something so sincere coming from my wife, who for the last 2+ years has been absent. So after she was through sharing all her thoughts, I proposed a plan that I felt was right for us. This is something that I had been thinking about these last few weeks, and I was planning on bringing this up in a few months if I noticed that things were not changing for the better. This date felt like the right place to share it, since it goes hand in hand with what she talked about, and it also relates to the help she was asking me for. I started by first acknowledging her feelings and her concerns. I told her they are valid, and how she feels is personal to her, and that I care that she feels this way because I don't like the thought of her being sad or depressed. I also told her that my goal still is and will always be for us to reconcile and be the happily ever after we vowed to be for each other, and that my love for her is as strong, if not stronger, as it was the day we said I do. I continued the conversation by telling her how I felt about the whole situation, read my previous posts for details, and how it affects me every day. I also clarified some things that she mentioned she was feeling because I have been very distant and monotone, transactional, lately. I explained to her that I was very much trying to protect my feelings and emotions from the rejection and neglect, and that it wasn't personal. It was simply me safeguarding myself because I cannot control her, I can only control myself. This was a perfect segue way to the core of this approach, which is focused on self-accountability. I told her that for the longest time I was always working hard to make her happy and do things that I knew she enjoyed or wanted. However, I was always met with rejection and disappointment, which caused a load of stress on me. I explained to her that I had to make a change for myself. After all, I can only control myself and make the changes that I want for myself. I mentioned how I was starting to implement new habits and routines that help edify me, all while still executing all of our shared responsibilities, including parenting, finances, and daily living activities. I explained that the goal is to continue to improve myself both as a husband and father, learn more, and be healthier, among other things. She was very receptive to this. She told me that she sees what I'm doing and that she is proud of the changes she has seen. She also told me how she's starting to realize that she feels left behind and that much of the things that have affected her negatively are her own fault. Toward the end of the conversation, which was about 3 hours, there was a very high spirit of reconciliation in the room. I told her that my goal is to ultimately make this work. However, I was very clear that I was not going to live under the current circumstances. I told her that my heart wants her to be happy even if it means elsewhere, and that I also deserve to be happy myself. I also explained that I do not want our children to grow up thinking this was okay or normal because they deserve better as well. She told me she doesn't either. She told me she doesn't know what to do, to which I replied, let's set some clear goals. However, the goals will be for ourselves, not for each other. So here is what we established. We are in charge of our own happiness. The key here is that she's not responsible for making me happy, and vice versa. We both need to seek what that personal plan looks like individually. Also, we're both encouraged to include each other in taking those steps if we want, but it is not required. We are in control of our own individual lives and our own journey. This means we're both responsible for finding the resources necessary to grow, change, and heal. We can definitely help one another when help is requested. However, unsolicited advice or help will not be rendered. We are responsible for communicating. This ensures nothing is left unsaid. If it was never brought up or discussed, it never happened. We're not mind readers, and we need to take ownership when we fail to communicate. Make a list of needs and wants. This gives us both clear directions about meeting each other's needs. This also gives us a choice as to what we choose to do, compromise on, or decline to do. This list also will not serve as a checklist for accountability. We made it clear we would not be bringing this list up for the purpose of arguing. And it was up to the other person to use the list as a tool for growth, transparency, or clarification. We concluded that it was up to us to decide if we will be happy doing these things for ourselves because we care, not to simply check a box. This was very important in order to establish long-term habits and not short-term band-aids, because you cannot make someone change or do something they don't believe is important. Established a deadline, Memorial Day 2025. At the end of the conversation, we concluded by setting Memorial Day 2025 as a hard stop to evaluate our lives and our progress. We agreed we would do this with the clear understanding that we will independently decide if we are happy here. If we determine we aren't happy, we will be getting a divorce. We would also both assume full responsibility for what happened should we get divorced. For example, if needs were not met, it would mean my partner chose not to meet them. This places full responsibility on each other in all areas. The whole process requires that if needs were not met, the next question should be, did we do everything to address this issue? If yes, then we will have a clear conscience of what transpired and know we left no stone unturned. If, however, we didn't do everything to address the issue, it will mean the issue was not important enough for you or didn't care to meet those needs. This goes both ways in all areas, like everything else. We established that the main motivator for change should be ourselves, and that if we did that, we would in turn begin to see beneficial changes towards each other. The goal is to ensure that everything we are doing for one another to meet each other's needs is being done because we want to do it for our spouse, not because she asked. Instead, it was done because I know it makes him/her happy and I love seeing them happy. I felt it was important to mention to her that we are no longer required to do anything for each other. It is now more of a I want to do these things for each other. Ultimately, I felt the conversation was very positive and productive. Many tears were shed and lots of hugging ensued. I know this doesn't mean or guarantee anything, however, this has never happened before and I can honestly attribute it to the 180 method. I cannot give any more insight on this method other than it's the only thing I did differently and something new happened for what seems to be better. I've decided I will conclude and will refrain from this method moving forward as the plan now has changed. I'm planning to devote myself entirely to not only myself and my growth but to also work on her needs and wants because I want her to be happy by my side. She said and agreed she would do the same for herself. We agreed we would help and build each other wherever we request for it and that we will be approaching this as a team. As of today, some of the biggest changes I have noticed are her commitment to therapy and mental health. She is taking some antidepressants that are helping her. She is also more confident and in a far better mood more frequently. We have started to explore more ways of intimacy in multiple areas such as physical touch and words of affirmation. Sex is starting to make an appearance, which is exciting. Side note, sex was very awkward to start when you've been abstinent for so long. We've also started to work out together, which is great, and have lost weight, which is also very exciting. Overall, communication has improved, and I cannot wait to see where this leads. I hope this helps someone out there. I'm still very much interested in your feedback and thoughts on this. You all have been a huge help in giving me hope and insight into this tough journey. Trolls aside, many of you have really been instrumental in my journey both emotionally and mentally. I will not be providing any more updates until Memorial Day next year. I think it's now time to keep focusing on myself and start working on all the new opportunities that hopefully will arise with my wife. I wish you all the best in life and your relationships with those you love. TLDR, our marriage took a turn for the better after the 180 method and we're now working on ourselves, each other, and rekindling our marriage. We also set a deadline for next year to either remain together or get divorced. Am I the asshole for telling my friend, who is vegan and doesn't drink, that I'm tired of catering to her choices? My 50F friend Lauren, 46F, is a vegan who doesn't drink. That's awesome and I have no issue with that. The problem is that she is part of a small group of friends who don't get out very often, but when we do it always has to be limited due to Lauren's choices. We live in an area where our food choices suck to begin with, so having to go to eat where she can be satisfied is very limited. There really isn't much to do otherwise at night. In addition, she gets upset when any one of us eats something that has an obvious meat to it. For example, she doesn't say anything if we get a soup with chicken or something, but if we ordered a hamburger she would cause drama. Then she doesn't drink, which is no big deal, but she will then send us videos on the harmful effects of alcohol if we get a drink or two with dinner. It has gotten on my nerves to say the least. It's been a while now, so I am done with everyone catering to her needs. I have tried inviting everyone to specific places and invited Lauren as well. Then she puts into a group chat, "Hey ladies, since I can't eat at X, why don't we go to Y?" Then of course the other ones decide we should go to Y instead. I have backed off of going out because I don't want to spend money on food that sucks. Remember, it's vegan, not vegetarian, so it's very limiting. And is expensive, or have my intelligence questioned by sending shit about the effects of alcohol as if we are not beyond old enough to know or Google it. I barely drink anyway but enjoy a glass or two every so often. She asked why I keep bailing, so I told her I respect your choices but by the very nature of them they have limited mine. Being that I don't have the ability to go out often nor unlimited funds, I am only going to go when I know the entire experience will be what I want. So if I'm in the mood for a steak and a vodka tonic, I want to have them in a relaxed atmosphere, and that obviously bugs you. If I'm in the mood for a salad and water, I will gladly join you, or we can just hang out at the beach when we have time during the day. She didn't like that too much. She said that isn't what friendship is about and I should enjoy the company enough not to care. I told her that I understood and I would gladly hang out with her when food or drink isn't in question because it's too expensive not to enjoy it. She said that there is nothing else to do around here. Then I asked if it's just about friends. Maybe she can eat first and join us out sometimes, and other times we can go to where she wants. She then told me that she's not going to sit around watching people eat meat. I said, okay, I get it, and you need to get that I'm not catering to your needs each time I'm free to hang out. I later got a text from a mutual friend that Lauren was upset, but she agreed with me because she was tired of the same shit. Of course this friend doesn't like conflict, so just listen to Lauren. So AITA for not wanting to continue to eat food I don't like or refrain from having a drink or two to keep the peace here, or am I right in feeling like she's being selfish expecting the rest of us to do what she's comfortable with each time? Relevant comments. Comment 1, NTA but drop the friends that don't like conflict. Why surround yourself with spineless morons? OP, true. It was all getting on my nerves and why I was happy not going anymore. However, I sometimes wonder if I'm an asshole when others just easily bend to other people. I appreciate that. Comment 2, NTA, Lauren is an ass though. The condescending comments about meat and alcohol are beyond me. OP, the alcohol really pissed me off. It was such a self-righteous type of behavior to me. Comment 3, NTA. She's exactly right, that isn't what friendship is about, and so why can't she enjoy hanging out with her friends who are allowed to eat and drink whatever they want, while she eats and drinks what she wants? I'm sorry, there's probably not a great ending here, but the way she's framed the situation can easily be turned around back on her, so she's not right. Neither is she wrong. It just may be that you two are incompatible as friends. OP, yes, I'm feeling we are not a good fit. To be honest, I am working hard on setting boundaries, but sometimes I question if I'm not going overboard, especially when many other women my age seem to just go along with something. I felt like she was being extremely selfish but thought I could be missing something, and why I asked. OP on if she had a problem with Lauren being a vegan and doesn't drink. OP, no. The problem is that I'm expected to become a vegan and not drink in her presence. I don't care what she does, but she cares what I do and the other women as well. OP on the food choices in the area. OP, nice try. I live in a small beach town. There is shitty food to begin with, so the options are extremely limited here. So I can't tell you how many salads I have been limited to eating while going out with her. There are no solely vegan restaurants and very few that have vegan options. She doesn't make it worthwhile to listen to negativity to get what you actually want, so that leaves fucking salad. So just because you misinterpret what I meant or assume the worst in people doesn't mean you're right. Fucking fame? Seriously. Damn. I thought my life was pretty lame just asking this question, and to think someone thinks I'd actually make this shit up. FFS. Update. Thank you so much to the countless people who commented on my post shown below. You made me realize that I wasn't an AH and shouldn't have put up with her BS. Many asked how I put up with it for so long. I don't have a good answer, but it was more about the group itself where I didn't want to create drama. My experience with friends has been lucky, as most everyone has been loving, fun and selfless. We can also call each other out on BS by busting chops and laughing. This was my first group who met semi-regularly, and the others were very sweet to where I felt uncomfortable rocking the boat. Anyway, yesterday it was a bazillion degrees out here in Florida and I was playing tennis with Lauren and 2 others. We were dying. I don't normally play with her, but these women are all on my team I joined coming up in the fall, so we needed to start practicing. No, I did not join because of Lauren. LOL. I've played against the other 2 throughout the years and they have been asking for me to play for a long time now. I live in a small area, so it's common for circles to mix like this. One of the ladies had to stop due to dizziness, cramping and nausea. We all decided that we should only play much earlier in the summer. Except of course Lauren, who didn't want to wake up early because she said she didn't play well then. That's when I had it. With the power of thousands of random Reddit strangers in my head, I basically told her off. I told her I've never met someone so self-absorbed in my entire life, and it was disgusting that she would even think that way in front of a teammate who clearly had heat exhaustion, let alone have it come out of her mouth. I said all this while her ass was sitting down, while the other woman and I got a cold wet towel for this woman and got her to drink. Lauren stormed off. These other 2 thanked me. One was her usual partner, who is the sweetest person alive and said she has been wanting to tell her off for a year now. The other one, who was feeling like shit, said she is going to tell the captain that she needs to go because she is like a cancer on the team. I am very happy to say that I will not be dealing with her selfish BS any longer. She can go shove a carrot up her ass for all I care. LOL, thanks so much everyone. Tonight I'm going to have a giant hamburger and a cold beverage in your honor. Cheers. Relevant comments. OP not respecting Lauren's wishes and trying to make this whole thing about herself and not Lauren. OP, I did say something and suggested other things. She wasn't having it. I wasn't pouting, we are busy and have lives, so this isn't the end of the world, and I was quite happy with that choice. I kindly told her my feelings and she told me I wasn't being a good friend because it isn't about the food. So then why do we have to eat her shit every time then? I wasn't hurt over the videos. It was fucked up to cross others' boundaries like that, as she was some self-righteous queen of health. She's controlling, as thousands have pointed out. That should be clear with her not budging on playing in the mornings after her teammate got sick from the heat. I spoke with her already calmly and nicely. She never budged and only expected me to continue to bend to her needs, inferring I was not a good friend. I still ended that conversation in a respectful manner to then learn she goes to a mutual friend to bitch about me. It was after the above that I felt she was extremely selfish, but I still wasn't sure because she turned it around on me. That's why I came here to Reddit. I didn't go off on her about the food. I went off on her because there was a woman about to throw up due to extreme heat. While another woman and myself were trying to cool her down and make sure she was okay, Lauren made it again about her. She sat there bitching about not wanting to play earlier because she doesn't play well early in the morning. BTW, that is complete bullshit because the matches start early in the mornings and she's played in this league for many years. I'm sorry, but you must be extremely infuriating to anyone who needs your help and needs you to listen. You fill in gaps to stories that don't exist, you assume what people are feeling and why they have done certain things, and then come across in a very pompous manner that you are correct. Yes, you're absolutely correct to the shit you literally made up in your head. However, you are very far off from what happened with me, how I felt and why I acted the way I did. When my late husband's ex-wife passed away, I had to decide whether to adopt his children. We haven't seen each other in 2 years. Hello, I of course know how awful this sounds. But it is a recent development and I'm unsure if I'm completely in the wrong. Before I married my husband, he had 3 children with his ex-wife who were 2, 5, when we got married. His ex was still bitter, I say this in the most respectful way possible. But it's true, as they had only been divorced officially for a year. After that, custody was a big issue with us, with her and my husband fighting for full custody. Unfortunately, we only ended up getting weekends and the complete months of December and July while they were out of school. So it goes without saying I wasn't much of a mother figure to them rather than their father's wife. My husband passed away 2 years ago in an accident and I haven't seen them aside from the funeral in all that time. His wife called me up sometime last month to reveal she's suffering from a terminal illness, a brain tumor, and that she was hoping I could take in the children after she passed. Both her and my husband's parents are far too old to even care for themselves completely. I still take his mother grocery shopping as she can't do it alone, and that there was no one else who would be able to care for and support the children in a proper way. She said her sister suffers from addiction and I'm not sure if that could be something the state would consider if there was truly no one left. I told her I'd consider and needed to think it over and would call her in my mind. I feel that even though it's heartbreaking that she has to consider who will care for her children when she's dead so soon, but I'm not sold and I don't want to jump in with full custody of 3 children who I haven't seen in 2 years. OP adds more information in the comments. For people who thought it was relevant. We were married for 5 years and together for 6. The kids are now 10, 14. No, we never got around to having kids of our own and I still don't have any. Their mother never remarried. I do passively for myself but could reasonably support the 3 of them provided we all make sacrifices and their mother or the state helps supplement the income either with her life insurance or some type of aid. The biggest issue I have with myself being THE is the commitment. These are little people who my husband loved dearly but at the same time I barely know. I've always thought I was a decent person but my extreme hesitation make me think otherwise. Update. I want to thank everyone for their condolences for my husband and the life he lost. I wasn't sure if it was my right to update this as I'm sure I made a decision most people would think me awful for. But at this point it's more of a releasing of feelings off my chest. As you know, my husband's ex is ill and I still feel for her greatly with much sympathy and will pray for her and her children. But it's been a very long time since I was in any way a parent to them. Even as a stepmother, most of their care went to my husband. I just don't feel I could properly care for them and myself in my life. I told her this. And I feel awful that I made her react the way she did. Crying and coughing. There was so much guilt I felt it was awful. But I think I have always known my decision. That I wasn't going to take in the children. I just didn't want to acknowledge it because it made me feel awful. I wish I could tell you where she decided they're going, but after our meeting where I told her my decision, it's been radio silence. As much as I would like to say they're going to people who are perfect and they'll be fine. I don't know. And their mother doesn't owe me an explanation. But I do wish them and her the best, and in the best case scenario I pray for her health. My ex-girlfriend committed suicide. I am a firefighter and had to find her body. It's been a bit over 6 months since I posted that story, and I want to give you a quick update on my life. I'm on mobile, so I apologize if it makes it harder to read. TLDR, my ex-girlfriend got into an abusive relationship with a drug addict. She was dealing with depression for a while and killed herself. I am a firefighter in NJ, but go to school in NH. I received the call and conducted research to find her. I drove back down to help with the search. We found her body in the woods and she wrote me a suicide note. Where I left off was me upset about the situation and upset with the world, and most importantly, upset with myself. I was in a dark place for a while after that. I drank and shunned out everyone but my friends who were helping me. For a good amount of time I distanced myself from any girl who I met. The funeral wasn't long after and Jim didn't even show up. I'm not sure if he was invited, but it just shows the type of guy he is. I didn't feel comfortable with dating anyone, let alone even hooking up with them. It felt wrong and I was scared I would get close to someone and lose them again. The depression I felt was destructive. My chief reached out to me not long after because I never told him how I knew her. He asked me to see a therapist and that he can set up a visit at the firehouse. I was in NH, so I told him I'll see my college counseling center and send him confirmation. I lied, I sent him a fake email and he believed me. I had this notion that I don't need help because I help people. After 3 months I was still depressed, but I started to talk to girls again. I met this really nice girl named Sarah. We talked and even hooked up a couple times. After a month and a half she asked if we could start dating. I told her I couldn't. I told her my story and said I don't feel comfortable being close with anyone. She took it well and still wanted to talk, but I couldn't anymore. I felt as if she crossed a line in my mind and we couldn't go back. I didn't want to be close with anyone like that again. Fast forward another month, my friend Kelsey asked if I wanted to go to her sorority formal with one of her friends. I accepted, and that's when I met Kristen. Kristen was perfect, she was really sweet and a great date. We ended up talking for a while, and this time I decided it was time to be proactive. I opened up to her about what happened to me and I told her I want to take it very slow. She completely understood. Instead of scaring her off, she helped me more than anyone has ever had. She convinced me that avoiding therapy is a bad move, and that there is no shame in seeking counseling. So I made an appointment and went. The therapist told me about a suicide prevention org on campus that I should join and tell my story. I joined them and they had suicide prevention events where people tell their stories to help others. I did my first story and Kristen and a bunch of my friends went to support me. It was one of the most touching moments of my life, standing up on that stage and seeing all those people. I continued doing these events and Kristen went to every single one. After 6 months I told her I'm ready to start dating, but to understand that I may be distant at first because I'm not used to this. She understood. We've been together for 8 months and she's amazing. She's the nicest and most supportive person I've ever met. Every time I'm in NJ I go to Lydia's house and support her mom. On Christmas I got a crew to come to her house and deliver presents to her mom's boyfriend's autistic son and her nephews. The way I was able to get relief from my pain was helping others. And if it wasn't for Kristen I wouldn't have the guidance to do it. Am I the A to ask my husband to block his female friend who warned him not to marry me? She has no right to interfere in our wedding. I, 26 female, want my husband, 27 male, to immediately block one of his friends, Kyla, 27 female. He thinks I am overreacting, and wants opinions from some cool-headed people on if I'm just acting crazy, or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he has been close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them, and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert, and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others. We both are neurodivergent, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has a severe social boundary issue. We got married 2 years ago, and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our second marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left, and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years." Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood, and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl for him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point, as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has of course not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college, and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her, and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me or the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I am being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us, and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down, and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the A for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I'm overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me, and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see that bitch Kyla's face again. Relevant comments. Commenter. Info. How has Kyla acted since the wedding? Has her behavior changed? You describe a bad behavior in the past tense, so one might believe she's not doing those things anymore. Does she still exhibit boundary issues with your husband? OP. Yes, her behavior with my husband has not changed at all after marriage. However, she is the same with all other friends too. With me, she is fake nice, where she acts like we are best friends in front of my husband, and barely talks to me when he is not around. Commenter. What did he think when you told him that she's totally different when he leaves? OP. He just says she does not know you that well, just ignore her. She has never said anything negative to my face. However, as a girl, you just know when someone does not like you. It's hard to explain to him that it's your feeling and not based on anything she has specifically said or done. Commenter. On blocking her. Especially with the physical contact too. She's so clearly into the husband, and the fact that he's not shutting it down means he likes the extra attention from her. It's one thing to get a friendly hug or maybe an occasional touch on the shoulder from a platonic friend, but shit like playing with his hair. That is 100% flirty behavior. And the fact that he's not shutting it down himself is gross. OP. I have to reply here. So my husband is physically allergic to people touching him. He has a startled response, either he jerks them away or tenses up, when someone hugs him and his face turns red. The weird thing is he can hug his parents or sister and does not get the reaction. He never had that issue with me, even when we first started dating. However, even if my sister or parents hug him, he gets that response. So the fact that he shuts down any touch from Kyla is an understatement. Mini update in comments. Just remembered about my post and logged into the account after many months. Things were really horrible for the last few months and that bitch Kyla almost ruined my life. I don't even know how to describe it. I might write about it next week as I saw a lot of messages asking for an update. I just want other women to be careful of such snakes. Update post. I had posted almost 6 months ago regarding my husband's friend Kyla betting that our marriage would not last for more than 2 years. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her, because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic shit to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote the post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments, and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend Joanna 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went to a conference in Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made a mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she was the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went into detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram, as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile, with no followers. We checked her photos, and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation, and he did not think too much of it. He asked me how I knew it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference, and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to share more proof. She told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and plan to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages, where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it, as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to the room at nights and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted. They do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to fuck off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth, and she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video games, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2-3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of shit. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up, and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to fuck his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that it's luckily, we are nerds and played video games at nights before sleeping, else, props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of shit and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I'm busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point, I am not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna, and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me, so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband. But I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. Relevant comments. Commenter, does your husband also believe that Kyla made up a fake Instagram account, pretending to be Joanna? Because that's pretty psycho behavior. OP, yes. He believes me because I told him that I never told Kyla why I thought the account was fake. It's possible she guessed it if I ever mentioned to her that we play video games at night, but it seems suspicious she would guess that was exactly the reason why I realized the account was fake. Commenter, why didn't you try to message her real Insta since you knew the one she used to message you wasn't her main? Why not message her main account? That would have cleared it up pretty quick, I would think. Commenter, why didn't you try to message her real Insta since you knew the one she used to message you wasn't her main? Why not message her main account? That would have cleared it up pretty quick, I would think. OP, her Instagram was private. I did not want to follow her as it would have looked really bad for me to add her, when my husband has blocked her. The only way I could see her Instagram was when Kyla showed it to me on her phone. To another commenter, trust me, I thought about this. Firstly, I will look crazy if I reach out to Joanna, my husband's ex, behind his back. Secondly, even if it was her messaging me, she would just lie and tell me it was not her. I also cannot disregard the fact that I started getting messages a week after my husband ran into her and told her that he was happily married to me. I have to accept that Kyla, if it was her, will get away with the BS. We do not have any proof it was her, and all we could do is distance ourselves from her. Commenter, why did you lie to your husband about the fact that this woman had messaged you in the first place? You are the problem here. OP, agree, I should have told him right away. I tried to be sneaky to know if he really met her at the conference. I was half expecting him to deny it if he was trying to hide something happened. I think I let my insecurity get the worst of me. Lessons learned. Commenter, did he bring a gaming PC or Xbox with him to a work conference? OP, we both use Steam Decks to play games together when he is away. Am I the asshole for not allowing my mother to bring her boyfriend I don't know or want to know to my wedding? I, 33, am not close with my mother, 55F, at all. She divorced my dad, 60, when I was 7 and almost immediately married my stepfather, Mark, whom despite everything, I was close with. They remained married until I was 16. I was upset when she divorced him and went to live with my dad and stepmom. In my adult life, I've chosen to remain close to my stepdad and even attended his wedding to his current wife, who is a very nice woman. My dad and my stepmom are great people. Since her divorce to my stepdad, my mom has been in and out of relationships, each time claiming this guy is the love of her life until they do something she doesn't like and they aren't the love of her life anymore. Both divorces with my dad and my stepdad were for very petty reasons. Dad, I think because he wouldn't allow her to get a new car because the budget was tight. I think the one that lasted the longest was 6 years and I think it's the current guy she's with, according to my sister. After I left home, she never did anything with me without her boyfriends. When I was 25, she broke up with her boyfriend and tried to cry to me about it. After working with my therapist, I set the boundary with my mother that if she wasn't willing to do anything with me without her boyfriend to not bother and I didn't want to talk about her love life. She was very hurt and we fell out for a while but she came back around a year later and has respected my rules since, but we only get together about 3 or 4 times per year. I understand that my mom's relationships and love life are important to her so I respect that we don't get together often. Fast forward to this year, I'm getting married to my partner, 35M, of a decade in October. It's a small intimate backyard wedding and reception, BBQ. We live in a rural area and our backyard wedding will have roughly 40 people. My dad, stepmom, stepdad and his new wife have all been invited. My mom asked if she could bring her boyfriend. I said no because I don't know him. My mom asked if she could bring him to meet me so I could meet him before the wedding. I said no and that I still had no interest in meeting her boyfriends. She said she understood but she felt it was unfair that I wasn't allowing her a +1 to my wedding when my dad and my stepdad were allowed to bring their spouses. I told her that the difference was that I knew their spouses. She wanted to know why I was so adamant about refusing to get to know her boyfriend. I explained to her that I saw no need since she'd just break up with them and move on to someone else eventually as she has always done before. She started to cry and told me I was being unreasonable and treating her as if she's a witch ****. Both my fiancé and my sister feel like I should suck it up for one day and let her bring her boyfriend so she can be comfortable there. I'm seriously considering it but I wanted to know if I'm TA here for sticking to my boundary at my wedding and what your thoughts are. Update. After reading everything here, I've decided to email my mother and invite him. I was already leaning towards telling her that he can come when I post it. I decided to set some ground rules for my mother. He is there as a +1 to my mother only. I made it clear to her that he is not my family and he is not my stepfather, so I will appreciate her not telling other people at the wedding he is my stepfather. Mark is my stepfather and he will be there. He is not to be in any family photos. In fairness, my stepdad Mark won't be in any family photos either, only my mom, dad, stepmom, and my siblings. He is not to approach me at any point during the wedding and reception. This does not change my previous boundaries. I'm only allowing him to come for her own comfort and to create a sense of fairness. I respect the fact she is in a relationship but that her love life has nothing to do with me and I wish to keep it that way. I told my mother that these are my terms for him being at my wedding and my terms are final and that I hope she can respect the fact that I'm trying to be reasonable. I use this opportunity to remind her of the reasons I put the boundary up in the first place. These reasons included forcing me to do activities with her shorter-term boyfriends in the past, forcing me to only discuss her love life while showing no interest in my life, and putting her relationships above her own children. If she responds, I'll let everyone know. Update 2. My mom called me within 10 minutes of getting the email. She thanked me for allowing him to come and said they would abide by my terms. She said she felt really hurt that her actions during her midlife crisis are why I'm refusing to meet her current boyfriend, who she says she's been with for 7.5 years, and that she thought things would eventually calm down enough where I would be comfortable meeting him. She said she now realizes that it will never happen. I told her that I'm firm on my stance. I think she started to cry but she said she understood and only wants him there because being around my dad and stepdad and their new wives, my dad has been married for 23 years and my stepdad for 12, makes her anxious and he helps keep her calm. She said she respects my stance and said it's her own fault I feel this way. I felt this may be the start of a guilt trip so I politely ended the call. Verdict, not the asshole. Additional comments to the post from OP, update. I will update here since Mods told me I was maxed on my post. I want to thank everyone here for commenting and giving their opinions. Without context, I think it's a little hard to understand why I'm the way I am towards my mother. This past has given me a chance to reflect on my own behavior towards my mother. The truth of it is, I find dealing with her to be exhausting and I want to explain to everyone why. My mom is a gold digger. And that isn't my dad or stepdad talking shit about my mom. They're classy guys and would never do that. This is my own conclusion. My mom said regarding both divorces, I'd still be married if dad or stepdad just gave me what I wanted. She's also tried to start fights with my stepmom because she realizes my brother and I prefer her over our actual mom. It's true, I'm closer with my stepmom. I go to her for all the mom things because she listens and cares. My stepmom doesn't make everything about her. I believe my mom suffers from main character syndrome and expects to be the center of attention at every event and if she isn't, she gets drunk which leads me to my next point. My mom is an alcoholic. She was in a DUI 8 years ago and crashed into another car. Thank goodness no one was hurt. She doesn't drive anymore, lives in the city an hour away and uses public transportation, but she still drinks a lot. At her height, she drank roughly 3 bottles of wine per day. I don't really know or care if it's more or less now. One of the other boundaries I set is I won't be around her if she's been drinking because that just stresses me out more. I'll be honest, I'm anticipating she's going to cause a drunken scene at my wedding. She slept with my brother's best friend 8 years ago when they were 21. This was a boy who my brother had known since preschool and this ruined the friendship. 8 years on and my brother will never forgive her for it. My mom thinks my brother needs to get over himself and that she did nothing wrong. Technically speaking, she didn't do anything illegal and everyone was a consenting adult but it still felt so wrong that she slept with someone my brother was so close with. It's why I don't really want my partner around her. She dates younger guys. This current boyfriend is 10 years younger than her, which is a little better. I don't judge her for dating younger guys, that's okay. It's not okay to sleep with someone you watched grow up. This whole post helped me see just how exhausted I am by her. I realized I don't want to deal with her BS anymore. I also agree that I have maybe at times shown it by being TA and being unfair and unreasonable towards her. I just don't like myself when dealing with her. It puts me in a bad mood. However, the idea of having her more in my life makes me nauseous but I want to keep the peace with the larger family, grandparents, aunt, uncle, etc. I've decided to take a page from my youngest brother's book and keep contact with just family functions. He's cordial to her at family events and keeps the peace when he's around her. But he keeps his distance and won't see her outside of a family event. So I'm going to do the same. I realized she could get sober, go to therapy, and change her entire life around, but I'm still going to see the woman who drinks all the time, sleeps with my brother's friend and just treats people like garbage. It's not fair to anyone. Not me for having dealt with her, and not her if she ever did or was actively working hard to change her life. I do want to make sure she's taken care of, fine and healthy, but I also want to not be emotionally involved anymore. Figuring that out is above Reddit's pay grade. Relevant comments from OOP, resident_test_2107. Honestly, I think you need to distinguish the hurt you felt as a kid when she broke up with your two father figures from what would happen now if they broke up. You're an adult, not a kid. Her breakups are her business, and don't impact you directly. Expecting someone to come to a wedding with her two exes there with their new wives is a lot. Expecting her to suck it up to put you first feels like you're trying to play out some drama and feelings you have left over from feeling hurt and abandoned as a kid by her breaking up your home. Divorce happens, it sucks for the kids, but so does an unhappy marriage. Feels like time to go back to therapy. OP, in my early 20s, she used to call me whenever she had a breakup and expected my sister and me to be emotionally supportive. She wouldn't spend time with me without her BFS around. She was insisting I meet some guy, who typically is a lot younger than her, like late 20s, or early 30s, which is good on her but still weird for me. She was dating for a few weeks. They'd break up after a year and she'd immediately find someone new. Wash, rinse, repeat. This was the pattern from when I was 19, 25. I always had to spend time with both of them. All she would talk about is her relationship. She would never ask me about school, my job or my relationship. She's only met my partner twice. There's a lot more I can add about how my mom constantly prioritized her relationships over being a parent, but they aren't pertinent to this story. She got with a really toxic guy when I was 24 who stole a bunch of money from her. We all warned her he was a scumbag, but she didn't listen. After that, I told her I wanted nothing to do with her boyfriends going forward. She got really mad, saying I was disrespectful and that any child should want to see her mother happy, but I just got tired of dealing with her relationship drama and I don't ever want to deal with it again. I'm sure the guy she's with is nice since he's been around this long, but I'm just done. I don't want to be around my mother, but I want to be around family. August 28, 2023. I've decided to estrange myself from my mother. We haven't gotten along since I was 16 and the last several years have been really bad. We only get together about 2-4 times per year and it always ends with us fighting. I'm tired of it. I'll be honest. I've considered cutting contact with her, but the one thing that's preventing me from fully severing ties is her parents, my grandparents. I love them very much and they are still hurting from my brother choosing to sever ties with her and keeping in low contact with that side of the family. My brother had valid reasons for doing this to her and he will get together with my grandparents if my mother isn't there, but it's hard because they want to see him at the holidays and during special moments. I'm getting married in Oct and this will be the first event where my mom and brother are in the same area. I've told both of them to stay away from each other, but I'm anticipating there will be drama because my mom doesn't like to hear she can't do something. I want to make it so we can see each other and be cordial at family events but not hang out otherwise. My youngest brother does something similar. I don't want to write her a letter because I fear that will cause more drama, but I expect she'll eventually call and want to do something with me, but I want to say no unless it's at a larger family function. How should I do this? My mother thinks she's entitled to alcohol at my wedding, September 23, 2023. My fiancé, 35M, and I, 33NB, are getting married in 2 weeks in our backyard. We will be having a catering spread for our reception afterwards. We decided to have a dry wedding for 2 reasons. My mom is an alcoholic who is known for making a scene when she gets drunk, and my fiancé has a brother who binge drinks and has had alcohol poisoning on more than one occasion. He doesn't drink all the time, but if he starts he can't stop until he either passes out or someone physically restrains him from getting more. I also have an uncle, mom's brother, and a stepdad who are in recovery and don't need the temptation. Neither fiancé and I are big drinkers, so we decided to just avoid any problems and just have a dry wedding. We will have a less dry reception party, honeymoon with some of our friends later on. All of our families have been supportive. My uncle was especially grateful to us for doing this since he takes his recovery very seriously and has been 7 years sober. I sent out wedding invitations 4 months ago and said it would be a dry wedding and asked people not to bring alcohol. Now today I get this call from my mom, who I also sent an invitation to 4 months ago. Mom, is it true you're not having alcohol at your wedding? Me, yes. Fiancé and I decided we didn't want alcohol during our special time. Mom, that's so silly. It's going to make your wedding boring. Me? Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but and I have made our decision. We want everyone to feel comfortable at our wedding. Mom. Clearly you don't care about my comfort. What if I want to have a little drink to pass the time? Me. Like you did at a different uncle's wedding where you got so drunk and made a horrible scene calling uncle's wife a gold digger. Mom. It wasn't my fault. They made the drinks there too strong. Me. Right. I really wish you would address this need to have alcohol wherever you go. Mom. I don't need to have alcohol. I just think your wedding will be boring without it. You want to have a fun wedding, don't you? Me. It will be a fun wedding. We don't need alcohol to have fun. Mom. This is so stupid. Why should everyone else be punished just to make it comfortable for a few people? It seems like you care more about uncle and stepdad than anyone else. Me. Or maybe I just want to avoid any scenes. Mom. I just told you that wasn't my fault. Me. Just like your DUI isn't your fault? Mom. How dare you bring up that difficult time in my life? I was going through a lot emotionally. What the hell is wrong with you kids? You need to mind your own business. If I want to drink, that's my business. Me. Well, my wedding is my business. We do not want alcohol there. That's final. I can't stop you if you decide to pregame my wedding, but I've already made it clear to uncles and brothers that if you cause a scene that you are to be made to leave. Mom starts crying. Why do you kids hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve to be treated like this by my children? Me. Are you really ready for me to go down that list? Mom. None of you understand. None of you will ever understand. I'm the mother of the bride. I should be treated better than this. Me. I think I've treated you pretty well during this process. I've acquiesced to your boyfriend whom I don't even know coming to my wedding. I've even given in to some of your other demands. So please tell me how you've been mistreated. Mom. You didn't invite me to go dress shopping. The mother of the bride always goes dress shopping with her daughter. I barely know because you never bring him around me. How do I know that you're marrying the right person? Me. That's because Aunt made my dress. Mom, sarcastically. Well, isn't that just special? Me, sighing. As for the rest, I think you know why. We aren't really close enough for you to have any say in who my significant other is. Honestly, Mom, I'm done with this conversation. If you really feel that strongly about this, I'll understand if you don't want to attend my wedding. Mom. Oh, I bet you'd like that, wouldn't you? One way or another you will respect me as your mother. Me. Sure, Mom. I'm hanging up now. Bye. Guys, I'm so livid right now. I have half a mind to uninvite her. I spoke to my dad and her brother. My uncle thinks her drinking is getting really bad again and has been wanting to hold an intervention. I told him I'm focused on the wedding right now, but that I definitely agree this was out of line and something needs to be done. What should I do? I don't want her ruining my wedding, but I'm so tired of dealing with this. Sorry, this is probably above Reddit's pay grade, but I just needed to vent. Update. I sent a text reiterating the rules. She said she knows where she isn't welcome and said she won't attend. My dad told me not to worry about this anymore and that he'll see to it that she doesn't ruin my wedding. Update 2. I sent this text to my mom. Mother, at this point I'm going to officially uninvite you from my wedding. I'm not going to allow you to change your mind, and I'd prefer it if you do not come to my wedding at all given your poor behavior. At this point, I've decided I don't want any further contact with you unless you decide to curb your toxic behaviors and drinking. I wish you the best. I hope you can find a way to heal, but I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but I can't handle you in my life anymore. If you try to force the issue, I'll be forced to take legal action up to and including contacting law enforcement. Please don't contact me again. I went to delete her from my Facebook page only to find a post that she had just written saying how being a mother is a thankless job and how she doesn't understand how she raised rude and judgmental kids. She ended it by saying she hopes her kids get over themselves someday. I'm done. This sucks, but it's been a long time coming. My head hurts. Small update. September 24th, 2023. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their support. You have no idea how much your love and constructive comments mean to me. I'm glad I'm not alone. It's not a huge update, but I guess my grandparents and uncles have had enough. They've decided to stage an intervention next weekend. If she refuses to get help, she will no longer be welcomed at family events and she will no longer be part of the family. They told me not to worry about it. My sister will go as she's the only one of her children that even has a real relationship with her, but even my sister said that if she doesn't get help, she will cut her off too. I'm hoping and praying this works, but given that she spent 1 year in rehab and the second she was off probation chose to drink again doesn't give me a lot of hope. My dad told me he's hiring the local biker gang to act as security. We live in a small town and the nearest big city is about an hour away, so it would be really expensive to have a security company come out. I don't have a problem with that. This is the type of gang that helps out abused kids and animals, and they do a lot of good where I live. The worst I've heard about them is they doled out some rural justice to a guy that was beating up the sister of one of the members and ran him out of town. When my mom got her DUI, she ran into someone's house and car. When she tried to back out, no one was hurt, thank goodness. And I guess it was the house of a relation of someone in the gang, so they agreed to help, and my dad is paying them to be security just in case. They know my family, one of my dad's cousins is a member, and they know my mom. I think she dated a guy in the gang at one point, and what to look out for. It may be moot if she ends up in rehab. I'm not stressing about her anymore. I have 13 days until my wedding. I'm going to focus on the final touches and just enjoy myself. My biological mom made her choices. Now that I've stood up for myself, I feel nothing but relief. My stepmom will be there and I see her more as my real mom, so it's all fine. I've been through a lot of therapy already, so I've had to make peace with how my actual mother is. I'm officially estranged from my mother, September 24th, 2023, same day. Well, it happened yesterday. I got into a fight with my mother and officially estranged myself from her. It sucks, and I had a gnarly headache when I was done. Her drinking and behavior just proved too much, and I had to univite her from my wedding. I feel sad it came to this, but the most powerful feeling I have is relief. Update. My mother thinks she's entitled to alcohol at my wedding, September 30th, 2023. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but it's my mom's world and we all just live in it. My mother got 911 called on her for domestic violence on Tuesday. She apparently started throwing wine bottles at her boyfriend, who locked himself in the bathroom and called the cops while she destroyed their place in one of her temper tantrums. She wasn't making any sense when the cops got there, so they restrained her and took her to a hospital. She's been stuck in the psychiatric ward ever since. My sister was listed as a contact for her and she got the call about mom on Wednesday. The doctors at the hospital spoke to my sister and they think she may be showing signs of alcohol-related dementia and some sort of psychotic disorder like bipolar disorder. They currently have her in alcohol detox, and from what my sister was told, it's pretty bad. They won't allow her visitors until she's out of detox, not that anyone really has a desire to visit her anymore. My sister and I decided enough was enough and we petitioned for guardianship for her yesterday at the request of a social worker who interviewed my sister, my uncles, my grandparents, and myself. A guardianship means they can hold her while it winds through the system rather than her being released after 72 hours. My grandmother's upset as she thinks all of the issues should be kept in the family and the state shouldn't step in. My uncles and grandfather are on the side of having a guardianship. As far as they're concerned, she's not welcome in the family anymore and they won't allow her to continue to take advantage of anyone in the family anymore. My sister and I say let her be a professional's problem and let them figure out what to do with her. My brothers don't care and have effectively washed their hands of her years ago, so their stance is whatever keeps her as far away as humanly possible. We can't deal with her anymore, and why should we? With the guardianship petition, I'm working on washing my hands of this situation entirely. I'm sure I'll be interviewed about why a guardianship is necessary, but other than that, I don't plan to have any further contact with my mom unless she apologizes and makes amends for her behavior, if that's something she's even capable of anymore. I just don't see that happening, and any compassion or understanding I had for her in the past is gone. Whatever state her life is in, she brought it on herself. I just want to move on with my life without her in it and be done with her for good. It doesn't look like she'll be released from the hospital anytime soon, so there's no risk of her attending my wedding. I did talk to her boyfriend yesterday after sister and I filed our paperwork, and we decided to invite him to lunch. He's decided to break up with her for good, and we learned just how bad things were with her. He's a real nice guy who's been caught up in a bad situation and had no clue how bad she could be. I feel really bad for him. I did decide to invite him to my wedding, as I can tell he's a lonely dude who's been to hell and back. Not sure he'll show, but the offer is there. There was a time I'd have allowed an event like this to ruin the run-up to the wedding, but I've been able to separate my mom's behavior from the wedding. It hasn't put a damper on it. Now that my mom is squared away, I can enjoy myself. I just put the final touches on the catering order and am expecting the last of my supplies. My aunt wants to put the final touches on my wedding attire. If I haven't mentioned, both my fiancé and I are huge steampunk fans, and so we're wearing steampunk attire and encouraging everyone else to dress in steampunk. Not required though. My wedding dress is actually more of a suit situation, but it looks badass. I don't think I'll update again, as I want to put all of this behind me and I don't plan to have any contact with my mother going forward. I'm looking forward to a bright future with my husband. My mom can stay in the past, and as cold and heartless as it sounds, I'm glad she's not going to be my family's problem anymore. Post-wedding update. October 9th, 2023. I just signed into this account again with a lot of people begging for updates. I don't have a lot. I guess my entire story is now in the best of Reddit. Thanks, I guess. I never knew dealing with my alcoholic mother was worthy of a best post. I just wanted to rant and sanity check myself. Only news on my mother is that she's out of detox and currently in a catatonic state, refusing to speak, eat or drink water. They may install a feeding tube if she doesn't let up. I think she's trying to be dramatic and get attention, so do my uncles. I could be wrong, but honestly I don't care anymore. We're not sure she has dementia, but she definitely has something going on, but doing any kind of evaluation while she acts like this is difficult. She also has liver disease, needs dialysis and possibly even a transplant, if she qualifies. The doctors made it very clear that if she doesn't quit drinking, she will die within the next 5 years, and it may even still be too late. I think I'd feel more sad, but I've had to realize that I lost my mother long ago. I did invite my mom's boyfriend, but he chose not to come. He's decided to get help for his own alcohol issues, according to my sister. I wish him the best. As for the wedding, I'm now happily married, and on Wednesday I took a pregnancy test that came back positive. We're super excited but haven't told anyone in our family yet. The wedding was fantastic and the day went off without a hitch. We had a blast and are heading out on our honeymoon on Wednesday to Costa Rica. My brothers and stepbrothers very sweetly hazed my husband during the at-home bachelor party and made it clear they're excited to have another brother. My stepmom did all of the mom stuff during the wedding. That was already planned before all of this. No one snuck in alcohol, there weren't any scenes. The worst that happened was my sister crying due to all of the stress she's been under. I do have some sympathy, but most of it is self-inflicted though, because she enables. But all in all, it was a great day and I was surrounded by those I love most. I know a lot of people asked for pics on my wedding suit. I will see if there's some way I can crop identifying stuff from it and post it here once I get my wedding pictures back. Otherwise, I'll figure out a way to post the outfits themselves. That's all I have. I'll try to update after my honeymoon. Now it seems like a baby is coming, so no promises. My husband accused me of murder out of the blue, and now our marriage is falling apart. How can I salvage our relationship and rebuild trust? This is long and ridiculous, sorry. My 30 female husband, Luke, 33 male, had a sister, Laura, 29 female. We were all close and saw each other 2-3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and died. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for 20 plus. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband straight away and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me. Exactly what we talked about, what she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to saying I was providing conflicting information. On tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding, and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool, and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal grieving person. Last Friday he outright accused me of murdering her, in front of his parents. Out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded, and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental death. He said it was completely obvious, and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about, I have never looked at his phone, and that I went over to confront her and things got out of hand, and I pushed her downstairs. By the end he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned, and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear, Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from, other than these messages I haven't seen, and even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to murder. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she's not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I am still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always, and I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, But part of me feels like my love for him died the second he called me a murderer, and I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously he's been grieving, but he seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? Too long, didn't read. My husband's sister died in a horrible accident. And my husband, for absolutely no reason other than some mystery messages, thinks I murdered her. Edit. It has come to my attention that I accidentally used Laura's real name once in this post. Can I kindly ask anyone who commented, who is, real name? Delete their comment as I really don't want this to bleed into my real life. For obvious reasons. Relevant comments. Moral talk. Fuck no. You don't salvage this. You get a lawyer and get the fuck out. Best case scenario. He has just admitted to sending messages with his sister that he thinks would make you angry enough to kill her over them. I have some ideas about what those might be and they're all bad. How did the parents react when he did this? OP answer. When he first laid out the accusation, at his parents' house, both his mother and I just kept asking him about the messages, and all he would say was that I knew exactly what messages he was talking about. She was as stunned as me, and his father just said he didn't understand what he was talking about. He's a man of few words, but there was plenty of head shaking. The whole thing was surreal. No one knew how to react. Wonderful. Prior 381. You need to get a lawyer to protect yourself in case he does go to the police. I would write down everything that you can remember that happened that day and keep it just in case. He may be having a psychotic break. As stated, don't talk to him or his immediate family or your friends without someone present or preferably by text or email. Save everything. You need to take his accusations seriously and cover your ass. OP answer. I was interviewed by the coroner's office after her death as I was the last person to see her. She died about 3 hours after I saw her, and I'd been to the supermarket and was home by that point. It's all verifiable and was a recorded interview. I haven't spoken to anyone but his mother, and that's only been over messages. She's never been a big texter, but she has seemed very cagey over the past few days. I don't know if this means she's seen the messages. I've asked and been ignored. Grulsh's good. I think they mean to record everything you remember about the day your soon-to-be ex accused you of murder. OP answer. I'm feeling so freaked out at the idea that he came up with this, almost immediately after her death, and has either been sitting on it or planning his confrontation, that I'm basically trying to dissect the past 6 months. Maybe it's time I start writing things down. Right until it happened, things felt very normal. Obviously her death has been felt deeply by all of us and things aren't anything like they were, but there have been no signs of anything like this, even on the day. OP on getting the messages. I'm absolutely desperate to see these messages, because I'm right there with you on the sheer wackiness of what they have to contain. It hadn't occurred to me that they might not exist. I've never known him to lie, but I do think a mental health issue is a real possibility. His relationship with his sister didn't seem odd, and I've never been interested in his phone, but he's never been defensive about it either, so I think you might be right. If I had such incriminating messages, I'd probably worry about them before now. When told to find an old iPad to use to access them, I have his iCloud password. It has a backup from yesterday. I have no idea how to turn this into something I can actually use. It doesn't have a messages folder or any signs of how to use it for anything other than restoring a whole phone, which I don't want to do. Does anyone know how to actually get the messages from this? Sorry to throw a tech support request in. I can't believe I didn't think of this. Huge thanks to the person who suggested it. Can I force my husband to get a mental health assessment, and do I risk being arrested, or prosecuted? We're in England. I'm in a bizarre and complex situation with my husband. I have broken the law, and I feel I have no choice but to do so again for my safety. I don't know what type of solicitor I need, or what the next steps should look like. We're in England, and I'll try not to editorialize too much. My husband's sister died suddenly at the start of the year. Her death was an accident, and there was no suggestion to the contrary. The inquest was recently concluded and a verdict of accidental death returned. I was the last person to see her, but her time of death, which was almost immediate due to her injury, was confirmed to be hours after I had left the house. All of this was verified at the time. In the immediate aftermath, my husband behaved strangely and kept trying to trip up my story of the last time we saw each other, which was a brief interaction. Last week, months after this was first and last mentioned, he outright accused me of murder, in front of his parents. He says I saw his messages with his sister and confronted her, and that he's going to have the coroner's decision overturned and have the police investigate. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Today is day 9. I posted for advice on Reddit. I'm pretty desperate at this point. And it has spooked me. Quite reasonably, I think. But also led to me committing a crime and planning another. My husband's iCloud credentials were saved on an old iPad in his office, and I downloaded his backup last night. I have read all of his messages with his sister, and there's absolutely nothing like he describes. I understand this is illegal and I'm concerned about the possible ramifications. I am also waiting for a call back from a locksmith to change the locks on the home we own together, which I believe is also against the law. So this leads to my actual questions. I feel justified in what I've done for my safety, but is there a degree of pragmatism under the law for these issues because of the situation, or am I shooting myself in the foot? I am resigned to the fact my relationship is over, but his parents don't seem to be taking this seriously, and they're icing me out. I believe this is a serious mental health issue which may put people, namely me, at risk. Can I do anything about this when all I have is the fact I'm being accused of murder? I feel he needs to be detained and this should be investigated as a full-blown psychotic break. Sorry, this is all a bit mental. In addition, what type of solicitor do I need? My understanding is that a coroner decision can't be appealed, is that correct? Are his accusations going to go anywhere? Can I protect myself from this or stop him escalating to telling others? We live in our hometown and everyone knows everyone. This could follow me forever and it's either a lie or a delusion. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comments. When told OP can't lock out her husband or force him to get a psych evaluation, OP answer. Thank you so much for your response. Locking each other out doesn't sound like a pattern I want to get into, but I think I'll go ahead and change them once on the basis that it isn't. You did this so you have to leave the house. And also you'll be prosecuted. Levels of seriousness. In terms of him being deemed to lack capacity, is there any way I can trigger the process that you know of? Is something like this sufficient for the Mental Health Act to kick in? I've been Googling and, you can be detained if professionals think your mental health puts you or others at risk, and you need to be in hospital, seems very vague. Obviously I'm biased, but accusing someone of murder and screaming about how they aren't going to get away with it feels like risky behavior. Does he need to have made explicit threats or is there a clearer bar to meet? Sorry for asking so many questions. No Firefighter 9257. You are jumping ahead of yourself and playing out situations that have not occurred. If your husband reports you to the police for accessing his data, and you are subsequently arrested or taken in for questioning, then obtain the services of a criminal solicitor for advice. With respect of changing locks, ending your marriage, seek a solicitor that deals with family law or divorce. If you feel that you are at risk from your husband, talk to a domestic abuse helpline. If you feel you are at an immediate risk of harm, then call the police. If you think your husband is mentally ill and presents a risk to himself or others, call the police. OP answer. I don't think that's a fair assessment. Being accused of arguably the most serious crime to exist has most definitely occurred. My understanding of the law is that something is illegal whether you are reported to the police or not. Those messages are evidence as far as I'm concerned that his accusations are false. They were apparently the trigger to me literally murdering someone I was extremely close to. I have illegally accessed them, and I don't think it's unreasonable to inquire as to the potential impact of that. I am fully aware that I need a solicitor, but as you're probably aware, today is Sunday. I don't know if I need to seek someone out based on a divorce, which honestly, if this is a mental health issue, is not going to be something I go for, or a criminal solicitor, or someone who deals with the Mental Health Act, as my absolute priority preference is getting him assessed. My only exposure to the legal system in my entire life was through the inquest, and that is obviously completely different to any of this. I'm not educated in this area. Commenter, it's sad, and slightly suspicious, that OP is jumping ahead to mental health assessments to defend themselves from accusations of murder when their husband is clearly going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. OP answer. What else can I do? He has blocked me everywhere, and we went from a normal couple dealing with the new normal 6 months after the death of his sister, to me being accused of murder over a family dinner because of messages which clearly don't exist. And it's been 9 days, and I've heard nothing since. Can I remind you that the inquest was held and concluded? I dropped off some Tupperware, grabbed an umbrella I'd left behind the previous week, went to a big Tesco, then went home and called my mum. I was already home by the time she died, and my whereabouts were extremely easy to verify because my husband was home all day. It's obvious that he's going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. That is the exact point of all of this. Update 1. Firstly, Thank you to those who helped me get to my husband's iCloud backups through an old iPad. I wasn't expecting much from Reddit, but I got valuable practical advice before my post was locked, and I appreciate it. There were no crazy, or even suspicious messages. I've searched for over 100 terms and scrolled back over the years. I saw a side of them both I wasn't expecting, but nothing that explains the claim I murdered Laura over their chats. Nothing to suggest he was cheating. Absolutely nothing to suggest incest. I repeat, no incest. No weird gaps where deleted conversations or a switch to another app would fit. Just siblings making plans, sending memes, and gossiping. They said unexpectedly horrible stuff about a few people but not me. It was a sort of relief, but it raised more questions than it answered. I sought legal advice, also from Reddit, after posting here. Turns out my options are divorce him or sit down. I contacted my community mental health team, who said they'd reach out, but made it clear it wasn't urgent. I then called his mom and said that if I didn't hear from him by this weekend, I would get a solicitor and ask for a mental health assessment as part of the divorce. In response, he made a ridiculous post to Facebook, which neither of us have used in years, and everything blew up. I'm going to try to keep this succinct. On Friday night, he made a long accusation on Facebook, with new information. He said he'd been planning to leave me for months with his sister's support, and I found the messages, and murdered her. The coroner has reopened the case and the police are preparing to arrest me, and he needs to make sure people know before the trial stops him talking about it. It was well written and seemed vaguely plausible. He messaged people with links so it got some attention. We live in our hometown, and have a large circle of friends because we've been here all our lives. People I haven't spoken to since school were reaching out to me asking WTF was going on. It was madness. In response, I posted the export of his entire conversation history with Laura, also to Facebook, when I finally got back in. I linked to the chat along with a post explaining my side, and noting that I had changed my ex's iCloud and Apple passwords, and that if he wanted them back, he should comment on my post and update his own, admitting that he was lying. He eventually did. When I started getting messages about his post, I panicked, and changing his password seemed important to preserve everything because he'd know I had access. When I spoke to him the next morning, it's clear he's not having a mental episode at all, but is claiming one because he's been caught in a big lie. As soon as he was outed, he called me, clearly drunk, begging and promising to explain everything if I deleted my post. I hung up and told him to call back the next day. He did. After many missed calls and texts. And he tried to bargain and guilt trip me with his mental health until it was clear the wrong people had seen his conversation. It's hard to describe, but it seemed fake. It was too well rehearsed, and then this morning, when it was clear he was getting nowhere, he blocked me. Begging for mercy and reciting facts about mental disorders doesn't align with someone in crisis with a sincere belief that someone murdered their sibling. The question of why he did all this remains unanswered, and he will not be getting his passwords until it is. The legal advice subreddit said this stuff is technically illegal, but it's beneath a court to take action, so I'm going to count on that because I felt like I had no other choice at the time, and now I don't see any other way to get answers from him. I am desperate and it's all I've got. So there we are. The relationship I have believed was my destiny since I was a teenager has boiled down to petty, convoluted and vindictive bullshit, played out on social media, for reasons still unknown. My hope for a brain tumor is fading and clearly tomorrow morning is going to be when I lawyer up and stop posting about this. I am mortified. I have no idea whether some people might believe him, and I still don't know why this all happened in the first place. Sorry I don't have a happier update, and thanks once again to everyone who offered advice. Relevant comments. OP on her husband's reaction after confessing to lying. OP answer, he didn't react at all. He'd called me tens of times at that point and we'd had 5 conversations on the phone about it. He was laser focused on me deleting the chat log from the get-go. But when I made it clear that posting that comment and editing his original Facebook post was the only way to progress the conversation at all, he finally did it. Then he went silent publicly as far as I can see, but continued begging me behind the scenes. Henna Karina. What on earth is in those chats that he's so desperate to keep people from seeing, and that would conceivably lead you to kill someone? Is there any chance they were using some kind of code or something? OP answer. I think it was the fact that it proved his story false, alongside the way they spoke about some people. It was really damaging stuff and I can see why he panicked. I hated to do it to him but I really couldn't think of anything else because so many people had questions. Sonic Blue 2117. Sounds like he's staging mental issues to get rid of you, or create a reason he's not responsible. Cheating? Money missing from work, personal or family? OP answer. This is exactly how it comes across. He kept saying about how various behaviors he's shown over the years fit anxiety and depression, they don't. And that his vulnerability has led to a complex grief-related breakdown. He is not particularly informed on mental health issues, so I don't understand how he went from a drunken shambles to that level of insight overnight, when he had apparently been in an active crisis, posting horrible lies on Facebook, less than 2 hours before calling me initially. You make an interesting point about finances that could be something weird, but definitely not to the extent that it explains any of this. When Laura died, she had a loan and credit account that no one knew about. The total on them was less than $3,000, and I don't know what happened because they weren't mentioned much after they came up initially, but everyone was a bit surprised. She lived for the weekend and went away with the girls, so it wasn't hugely suspicious, and it was confirmed there were no unusual transactions in her accounts, but it was odd. She was saving to move out, so she was pretty open about her finances generally, because she was excited about her savings goals. I don't think it points to anything, but I'm at a point where anything could be relevant because it's all such a mess. Update 2. Hi everyone. Me again. Both times I've posted here it has paid off hugely in terms of helping unravel this mess, so I hope it's third time lucky. For the past few weeks I've been trying to figure out why my husband suddenly accused me of murdering his sister, who died in an accident at home, 6 months ago. It still feels as ridiculous now as it did then. When Laura died we found out she had about $3,000 in hidden debt. It was odd because she was pretty open about her finances, but it wasn't out of character for her to overspend, so I hadn't really thought about it since. A comment on my last post prompted me to look more closely at money stuff, and a message to my husband from Laura asking about a payment stuck out. I'd initially assumed it was about a car issue she'd had a few weeks before she died, but Luke definitely paid at the garage when they picked it up, because we talked about it after she dropped him home. It didn't occur to me when I first looked through. The messages supposedly proved I was a murderer, so I had been looking for something scandalous. The message about payment was the only thing I had at that point, and I had no idea what it meant, so I took a chance. I told his mother I knew about the money, and that if he didn't get in touch with me that day, I would make sure everybody else did too. He called me straight away and asked me over to his parents' house to talk. He looked dreadful, and the first thing he asked me was whether I was happy now all of his friends hate him. I told him I don't give a fuck about his relationships and that I was there for answers. It turns out my husband told the coroner's office that he was secretly helping Laura pay some of her debt because she was embarrassed and struggling to keep up with her lifestyle. I assume it didn't seem suspicious because her death was clearly an accident, and that's what they were investigating. In reality, he took out loans and store cards in her name, and she somehow found out a few weeks before she died. Some guy he works with had apparently done it before and arranged it all, and if Laura hadn't found out, he claims they could have had it written off without her ever knowing. When she did find out, the guy left him high and dry, quell surprise, and he had to pay it off. I'm inclined to believe that's the gist of what happened. But I am shocked my husband would do something this stupid. When she died so soon after, his brief and apparently genuine suspicion was that she had told me about it that day, and we argued and I'd killed her. He couldn't explain why I would kill someone because they were a victim of fraud. But according to him, he felt guilty in the immediate aftermath and his brain made it fit. I mostly believe this, but he tried launching into more weaponized therapy speak at that point, so I cut the topic off. A few months after his sister's death, Luke received a letter from a credit company, not even the police, saying he was being investigated. Laura didn't have much, so her debts, which were less than $10,000 even with the fraud, were mostly written off. Something obviously flagged against my husband during that process. I don't know how or why. When the letters got more threatening, he believed the investigation would reopen the inquest, and that he would be accused of fraud, perjury, and because of his previously unknown motive, possibly murder. He claims the only thing the company investigating him actually knows is that the fraud came from our address. So accusing me would make it impossible to prove, because it would be a coin toss, his words, as to which one of us took out the credit in Laura's name. That was worth our entire marriage to him, and my reputation in the community we have been part of for our entire lives. He says self-preservation kicked in and nothing else mattered when he thought about what could happen to him. When I asked him how his witness statement fits into his plan, because it proved he lied either way by acknowledging he knew about the debt and paying it, he froze for roughly 1,000,000 years before saying he hadn't thought of that. Obviously my response was to ask why. If he hadn't thought of it, he specifically said it was a lie he needed to cover earlier in the conversation. Suddenly he's sobbing and his parents are rushing in to ask me to leave. I was in tears at this point, asking how the fuck he could do this to me over something so stupid. And how much his parents knew about this, as his mum was pushing me out of their house. All she said was that she couldn't have this conversation with me. She was crying too but wouldn't say another word. I am now 99% sure the fucker was trying to frame me. Not for her death, but for the fraud. He was going to claim that he was lying for me in the coroner's interview, right? If he wrapped it all up as quietly paying her off on my behalf then genuinely suspecting me of her murder, it would protect his reputation and point the finger at me. It just doesn't make sense any other way. Is my husband trying to frame me to weasel out of his actions, and how do I get to the bottom of this? I'm obviously open to theories because Reddit is the only reason I got this far in the first place. That being said, please don't come up with conspiracies about Laura's death in the comments. It's upsetting. She was wearing shitty old slippers and walking upstairs with a cup of tea, and she slipped and hit her head on a windowsill. This was never a murder mystery, it was someone's life, and she died just because. Maybe a butterfly flapped its wings somewhere, I don't know, but it's hard enough to accept without having guesses shouted at me on the internet whilst my marriage falls apart. Relevant comments. Even budget, Takro 78. I mean, framing you for fraud seems the most plausible from what you found, though it's an incredibly idiotic frame job that wouldn't work. So, I have to say, he sounds incredibly dumb. As an explanation, it's probably the best you are going to get, though very unsatisfying. I am mystified by his parents' behavior and what he thought that Facebook post was going to accomplish. It's not like the investigators are going to go poll the town. He could have just written back to them that he knew nothing about these cards and the only people at that address were you and him. There was no need in this weird plot to ruin your reputation publicly. But again, he sounds very dumb, so I guess that made sense to him. So sorry this happened to you, but I suspect in several years' time, hopefully sooner, you will see being rid of him and his family was actually a blessing. I wish you your very best life going forward. OP answer. This is what I don't understand. He's behaved impulsively before but never anything like this. I understand that he didn't take the fraud seriously until he was caught by Laura, and I can get that her death would have made him anxious about it. But I don't know what would possess him to think he could just pass it along. It's baffling. Even budget 2078. What's also strange is that it sounds like the fraud amount was low enough that, while yes he'd get in trouble, it isn't like he's going to be ruined. Not that this is a good thing, but white-collar crime is not exactly strongly prosecuted in the UK. Plus it sounds like a repayment settlement could have solved this. Unless he works in finance or needs a security clearance, this wouldn't be something he couldn't recover from. Also very odd is that you were his alibi for the accident. I realize that wasn't necessary as this was an accident regardless of alibis, but still it's very dumb if he was worried about this being known as a motive, that he would alienate his alibi. I keep coming back to the dumb part, only explanation that makes sense. LOL edited. Changed US to UK, where OP is. OP answer. This is exactly it. 3K would have been manageable. He could have set up a plan to repay it over a year and he'd have needed to tighten up but would have been fine. It was a private company so getting their money back would obviously be more of a priority than seeking prosecution. This is also part of why his story doesn't make sense. It's such a small amount in the grand scheme of things to blow up your entire life. The only thing I can think of is pure desperation to protect his reputation. But even then, who goes that far? Strong Bottle, 4161. Is he someone that really prides himself of his reputation? Is his job in finances? OP answer. He's a mechanic, so he's got a bit of a masculine pride thing going on. He always wants to be seen as a good, salt of the earth, do anything for anyone type person, and whilst actually being a good person sometimes slips, usually in the way he talks to people after a drink. Never ever to the point where I'd think he'd take loans out in people's names or try to ruin me like this. Saint Blay. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but is he on drugs? OP answer. He's a casual drug user but I've never seen signs of it getting unhealthy. He does cocaine maybe 8-10x per year, and I've never known him buy it when his money would have been better spent on something else. He's better at spending money than having it generally, but he's never ever shown signs of being greedy or deceitful. The only thing I can think of is that it would have been in the lead up to Christmas, but his gifts weren't particularly extravagant so I don't think it was a desperate attempt at a magical Christmas. We broke up just after a month of dating because my boyfriend gave me a very bad and sexist book. Now I'm happy with my same-age husband. I met my boyfriend in our master's program. We became friends over this past year and started dating and becoming serious shortly before I left the state for a summer internship. He gifted me a book to read, saying it was one he liked. It's A Spell for Chameleon, by Piers Anthony, a fantasy novel written several decades ago. I knew nothing about it prior, and began laughing at it 2 pages in because of how ridiculous the writing was, especially about women. We Skyped after I got through the first chapter, and I tried respectfully explaining my doubts about the book. He made a deal with me. Knowing I'm a big Harry Potter fan, he promised to give the HP series a chance, starting with Philosopher's Stone, if I gave his book a chance and kept reading. This rocked my world, and I had a sudden burst of motivation. I'm on chapter 3, and I cannot stand this book. It is one of the most sexist and misogynistic texts I have ever had to read, and it honestly makes me feel like crap. Not to mention it's just poorly written all around, painfully spoon-feeding obvious symbolism, and excessively throwing in fantasy creatures concepts that do nothing for the plot. The protagonist is a complete dillhole that I couldn't care less about, and as a reader, I don't want to follow him or anything in the fantasy world of Xanth. But of course, flat out telling my boyfriend those thoughts about a book he enjoys would be hurtful, and he has every right to have different preferences. I am shocked that he would recommend such a book to me though. He is a respectful and educated man, treating me very well and identifying as a proud feminist. This recommendation was out of left field. Does he not remember how hurtful the author's writing on women is? Did he read it at a young age, and has since grown? I can't expect him to hold his end of the bargain and read Harry Potter, which is fine, especially if it means not having to put myself through Piers Anthony's excuse for writing ever again. I like my boyfriend a lot. How do I respectfully tell him why I cannot invest in this book anymore? It's important to me that he realizes the negative messages being suggested, but I want to do this without insulting his taste or making him feel at fault. TL Doctor, boyfriend gave me a book to read, and I accepted. I think it's sexist and poorly written. How do I tell him that I cannot keep reading? Should I explain my concerns? Relevant comments. OP explains why the book is horrible. Example 1, I like beautiful girls, he said. And I like smart girls, but I don't trust the combination. I'd settle for an ordinary girl, except she'd get dull after a while. Sometimes I want to talk with someone intelligent, and sometimes I want to... He broke off. Her mind was like that of a child. It wasn't really right to impose such concepts on her. Example 2. That's the point, he said. I like variety. I would have trouble living with a stupid girl all the time, but you aren't stupid all the time. Ugliness is no good for all the time, but you aren't ugly all the time either. You are variety. And that is what I crave for the long-term relationship, and what no other girl can provide. Example 3. All women are the same inside, they differ only in appearance and talent. They all use men. Example 4, that whole rape trial in chapter 3. Example 5, other girls manage to enhance their appearance by cosmetics or padding or specialized spells, but besides Sabrina all other females look somewhat artificial. She was no enemy. This was the PG-2 example I mentioned. Example 6, there was much more of her he longed to see, and to touch, but that could come only after marriage. She was that sort of girl, and it was part of her appeal. The girls who had it didn't need to put it on casual display. PG-3, Mikatoba. Oh good lord. I looked up the book and thought, this couldn't be that bad, could it? I guess it is that bad. Top comment. The first thing to ask is when he last read this book. If, like you said, he hasn't read it since adolescence, he may not remember how truly awful it is. If he's read it recently and still recommended it, well, I'd be totally honest about how I felt about it. But that's just me. You can certainly just tell him you gave it a fair shake but it wasn't your cup of tea. Update. The post was locked shortly after I put it up, so I wasn't able to comment back to most of you. I went through every comment and took them all into consideration. Thank you all for your thoughts. We Skyped the other night and the topic came up. I started by saying I liked him a lot and really do appreciate how much he's willing to share with me. He caught on to where I was going with this and started laughing. Then I started laughing. And I realized how silly small of a thing this all was. I guess I didn't want to risk hurting his feelings. When the reason why I didn't like the book came up, I explained, and he totally understood. It's been at least a decade since he's read the book, and he can see where I would feel uncomfortable. He will still consider reading the first HP book, since I gave his book a chance. And being a single dad, his kids also like the series, so it would be a chance for him to connect more with them. I ended by saying that I hope this doesn't discourage him from sharing more things he likes. If anything, it encourages me to find more that you'll appreciate. Q heart flutters. TL.er, good talk, he's awesome. New update. Hi. I would reply to this under the username you lazy chickbum, but it got locked a little over a year ago. Reddit banned me for sharing a mayor's office contact information lol, and I created this one shortly after. It's hilarious this post is being shared because it's from such a different time in my life. Your instincts are right. This relationship only lasted a month after this post. I took an opportunity to live and study abroad for a few months, and it was clear that he didn't want anything that deep, dodged any conversation that required vulnerability, didn't like that I wasn't always 100% perky, etc. I also had a rough breakup before this and wasn't making the best judgment calls when it came to dating. I could have caught a few more things about him that give similar concerns now as this book recommendation then. So I called it off. Oh my god, then he suddenly wanted to make it work, and kept it up for over a year after the breakup. We weren't even together that long. He would text me as if we never ended, and I would shut it down. He eventually stopped, but I still get occasional notifications on LinkedIn that he viewed my profile. I'm now happily married to someone my age, not knocking appropriate relationships with age gaps. I'm good friends with a couple who are 12 years apart, but I dodged a bullet, folks. Thanks for giving me a good laugh with this flashback. I love my husband but am no longer physically attracted to him. Not because of his looks, but because he isn't manly enough. I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I have to say it. It's a throwaway account. My husband and I are in our mid-40s, married for over 20 years, and have 3 beautiful children, all in their double digits. I do love my husband, but I don't know if I'm physically attracted to him, not because of his looks but because of how he lives his life. My husband is a good man, treats me very well, and is an amazing father to our children. Physically, he is tall, with broad shoulders, not skinny or athletic, but not obese either. He is a big guy with a big beard, big arms, and big hands. He is built like a linebacker. He can physically intimidate people with just his presence, although he never intentionally does that. He can control a room and has a very masculine job at which he excels. However, the manliness ends there. This is why I may not be attracted to him anymore, if I ever was. He is not handy. It's not that he doesn't try to fix or do things around the house, but he cannot build anything. Anything he does fix never looks or works right. Often we have to hire people to fix or build things for us. He doesn't drink. He will go out once in a while and have a couple of beers, but he doesn't drink at home. My husband isn't into any manly stuff. He doesn't hunt, fish, or do anything with automobiles, and is not big into sports. He has taken the kids fishing and shooting, just so they have the experience, but he does it just for them. He really doesn't have any hobbies. I begged him to take one up, so he started building Lego sets. He's in his 40s. He loves going to movies, likes cooking. I never have to cook when he is home, and he does a lot of the house cleaning. I will give him this. He doesn't play video games or board games, unless it's family time, or do anime or any of that. He is not controlling in bed. Sex is okay, but I want him to take charge. I won't say anything about this to him. I wouldn't know where to start. I do love him. It's not that I want him to be a drunk or macho aggressive jerk, but sometimes I just want a man to take charge and fix things and be a man. This is bad, I know. I feel bad saying it, just needed to say it. Update 1, hello. I wanted to add a little update to my original post. I don't know how to link it to this one, so you'll have to go into my history. I received a lot of hate for my thoughts and feelings. I realized when I wrote them and read comments about them that they come off as mean and cruel. I have no right to feel this way. The problem is that I do feel this way. I don't know how to change it. I thought about it for a few days and finally needed to take action because it was weighing on me so bad. I received some messages from people telling me to have a conversation with my husband. I decided to. I thought for quite a while about what I would say, how I would say it, and tried to think of questions or statements he would have that I thought about responses to. Last night we had a talk. Kids were at work and at friends' houses. We were sitting outside enjoying the fresh evening air. I brought it up. In short, nothing went as expected and I am as confused about my marriage as I ever was. I began by telling him that I love him. I love that he is a great father and person. However, there were some feelings I could not shake and there were some changes from him that I needed. I talked about his hobbies, changing it up a bit. Working in our bedroom, what I wanted out of it. I explained in the most sensitive way that I could about how I feel about his personality and overall measure as a man. I did not use those exact words. I was more gentle. However, in order to move forward with our marriage, I felt I needed to be honest. I did tell him that I wanted honesty from him as well and wanted him to tell me what I could do to be a better wife. I know I cannot ask him to change without having some changes myself. I never expected his reaction. He literally just stared at me. Said nothing. His reaction was emotionless. No anger, sadness, acceptance, nothing. Just stared. I said everything I wanted to say. I was looking for a response. I got none. After sitting in silence for a while, Waiting for some reaction or words, I just yelled at him to say something. At least tell me what I need to work on. The only thing he said to me last night was, "I knew who you were when I married you, I am not going to ask you to change anything." That's it. We sat in silence for at least an hour after that. Our oldest then came home from work, and he went to talk to him for a while. Not about our conversation, but how work went and stuff. My husband did not sleep in bed last night. He slept on the basement couch. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel. I do feel better about telling him how I felt, but not as great as I thought. I really do not know how to feel. Maybe that's a sign my marriage is over? I can't feel anything about it. I should be happy I said it, sad he won't talk to me, angry for no response, but I have nothing. I guess I'll give it some time for both of us to process. Update 2. I apologize again, I still do not know how to post my previous updates or the original post. Please look at my history. My last update I laid out what happened while talking to my husband. He spent that night and last night on the couch downstairs sleeping. We haven't talked about our conversation. He has talked to me, but not about that, and the talks we have are short. We have had our kids around all weekend, so I never have gotten the opportunity to sit down with him, and with him sleeping downstairs, I figured to just give him some space. I don't know how to proceed. I have talked with a coworker about this, just to get advice since I needed someone in my life to talk to. He advised me to give it a bit of time to let my husband talk to me. But if there's no change offered by him, then it may be time to tell him that we need to separate. I don't want to do that, but it may come to that. I want him to see where I'm coming from, and I want him to tell me what I can do to change. That is where we are at. No real big update, but I will give him until the end of the week. If he doesn't initiate anything, I will. Edit. Okay, I had to edit this post because there have been some comments about my coworker. I had these feelings about my husband before I talked with my coworker. We are not having an affair, we are not doing anything inappropriate. He is giving me some guidance because he is a man and I figured he could help. Nothing more than that. Also, please stop calling me names because I have these feelings and am trying to navigate them with my husband. I cannot help my feelings any more than you can help yours. Think about that. Think about an off feeling you had and wish you didn't have. It's happened to everyone, including you. So please stop. Update 3. This is not so much an update but a repeat of the edit on my previous update. I am not having an affair with my coworker. I went to him after I was having these feelings about my husband. For advice only. There is no emotional or physical affair going on. I go to him for advice, he gives it and I either take it or I don't. He is not pushing me to do anything, it's just his advice. I literally have no other friends or family in this area, or I would have gone to them. Also, these are my feelings about my husband. I have tried very hard not to feel this way, but I can't stop. I don't know how many of the angels and pure people on this app are able to control their feelings so well, but you obviously are better than I am. None of you have ever had feelings you couldn't shake or feel bad about. If you say you have, you are a liar. I posted my feelings because I am genuinely confused, scared and don't know what to do. I feel that you guys just bash but provide no answers. There have been some of you that have been beautiful and helpful, sending me DMs, and I thank you for that. The rest of you in the comments, think before you post. If you don't want to provide sound advice, please just move on. Final update. Okay, I'm done. Not so much an update, but I have been getting so much hate for simply looking for advice. Comments, DMs, all have been just blasting me. I am not going to post on this anymore. What happens between my husband and I will remain between us. This was the stupidest decision posting on here and then continuing to post on here. I am not cheating on my husband. It's a coworker. We have talked a few times about it. We only texted a couple of times. We don't talk about feelings for one another. Just someone I asked for a little guidance from, and he was nice enough to give it. Yes, my husband is a good man. No, I am not a piece of crap for having the feelings I do. I stand by talking to him about my feelings, because that is what people do in a marriage. If my marriage is over because he cannot accept what I have to say or change the small things I want him to change, then so be it. But I am done posting. Thank you to the people of Reddit for absolutely nothing. I was sick to my stomach when I discovered my wife's secret Google account, which contained hundreds of photos of my ex-girlfriend. I, 36, met my wife Bailey, 33, 9 years ago through mutual coworkers and we hit it off immediately. I fell absolutely head over heels with this woman, she was everything I was looking for. I had gotten out of a toxic, dare I say abusive long-term relationship right before that with a woman Bailey had been acquainted with, but not friends with. I had her blocked on everything, and had no contact with her since breaking up. We got married right after the tail end of the pandemic, bought our first house together, and started trying to conceive. That was difficult because Bailey has PCOS, but last year she finally gave birth to our first daughter. I'm having a blast being a dad. It's kind of a dream come true. I finally got my happy life with my perfect wife. My perfect wife. Until last Monday. My laptop's battery hit the bed, so I opened up Bailey's work tablet with an attached keyboard. You can set it up like a monitor, to check on some tax stuff. She wasn't home, it was just me and the baby, but we've never asked permission to use each other's devices. We've always been open like that. There's nothing for us to hide. That's what I thought. When I opened up the internet, I noticed she had the incognito tab open. Never in a million years did I expect to discover what I did. My wife has a secret Google account with a photo album saved called XX. So I clicked on it. Did I discover an affair? Nudes? Nope. In this Google album were over 300 photos, 348 actually, of my ex. The woman I was with right before I met Bailey. The woman who tormented me and made me feel worthless. The album said it was started back right around the time Bailey and I started dating, and was updated as recently as 2 weeks ago. The photos range from candid shots with family, to pictures at her work functions. There were even pictures from her yearbook. I don't know how Bailey could have found her high school yearbook photos. Photos from vacations, Idaho photos from work. Pictures of her in crowds, screenshots of videos and screen recordings of videos. Just her. The other people in the photos would be scribbled out, or the photo would be cropped and zoomed in just on my ex. There were other disturbing things I found too. There was another album with just zoomed up pictures of my ex's hair. Come to think of it, Bailey had recently started wearing her hair different and my ex had a very identifiable hair type. There was another album with screenshots of comments on social media. Of course I can't find them because I have her blocked. Like, Facebook groups she's in and public posts. And my ex is very low-key on social media. I can't imagine the lengths Bailey went to find them. My ex literally lives in another country now. There were also different links to the exact outfits she was wearing, like very specific blouses and trousers you'd have to really go looking for to find. A specific water bottle I remembered purchasing, and identical hiking boots and sandals. So basically, my partner of almost a decade has been a single white female. My girlfriend has secretly stalked her to the point of buying her exact clothes and changing her hair, and now I'm starting to realize Bailey's new interests over the years were just my ex's. Bailey has turned herself into my ex. Everything feels like a lie. Our love feels like a lie. The things we share feel like a lie. I threw up and had a panic attack. I looked at our daughter and felt betrayed. I haven't confronted her yet. I don't know if I want to. I want to run away with our daughter. I want to print out all her pictures, leave them on the table and disappear. I don't know what to do, I just want to throw up. Relevant comments. Shmai. Holy cow. That definitely is alarming. The best thing to do is address it now to see what'll change if she no longer has someone to replicate. The toxic side of me would slowly start mentioning things like, you know, you really do remind me of someone. And nonchalantly bite into an apple and walk away. OP, I feel like what's worse is that she's subtly made these changes over time under my nose. So my ex has a specific career and Bailey didn't express interest in switching careers to the exact same thing until after I had mentioned what my ex did. Didn't notice at the time, but I remember telling her ex went to school for that. The hair was more recent, the outfits and objects, slowly over time. The interests, I'm not sure how much she's stolen personality-wise from my ex and what she actually likes. It's all incredibly exhausting and confusing. Miss_chapstick. I'm so sorry, this sounds like something out of creepypasta. OP, I'm actually surprised with the amount of support I've gotten here in the last hour, haha. Believe it or not, there are no other red flags in our marriage. Now I don't know what else I've missed. OP added. While I talked about my ex, most of the things I told my wife about were negative and painted her in not such a good light. My wife knows these things and knows they were traumatic. Of course, I've mentioned things like what she does for a living and things she used to do. I think everything else she found she got through intense cyberstalking through my ex's friends and family. The yearbook photos, I have no idea. Edit, removed specific info so I don't accidentally dox myself. Update. I'm pretty sure I accidentally got my original post removed just now because I tried to update it with a link to my update. Oops. Anyway, I'm the guy who found the Google Drive full of pictures of my ex. So, I was not expecting my original post to go viral on YouTube and TikTok, and have so many responses. Yikes. I am overwhelmed by the support. I am humbled by the number of people who have been through this experience, on both sides. I have an update, but it's probably not as exciting and as juicy as you want. It's not bad though. First, let me clear things up. If people think this post is fake because it doesn't make sense, or our trying to conceive timeline is short, or the way I worded things makes it look like a teenager or woman wrote it, continue to think that because it means I've successfully been vague enough and worded things to not accidentally dox myself. Believe this is a creative writing exercise, so I don't embarrass myself. For real. No, I didn't actually throw up. I was in the middle of a panic attack. Private browsing. Tabs were open to the websites with clothing and objects. Another tab was signed into Google Photos. When I exited the Google Photo tab to look at the websites with clothing and came back, it was already signed out and I couldn't get back in. A lot of the clothing I recognized wasn't because I remembered my ex wearing them. There were more recent pictures of her in the file wearing them, and I remember the day Bailey bought the water bottle that also happened to be in the folder. The hair. Bailey and my ex are the same race and my ex wore braids in a particular way. Not so particular that it's exclusive to my ex, because Bailey has also worn different braids, but seeing pictures of her made me put two and two together. Is there any way Bailey could have gotten with me in an attempt to get to my ex? Was Bailey possibly obsessed with my ex before she met me? Probably not, because Bailey grew up here and my ex originally moved here for university. And while you can drive across the border, it's not that easy and I don't think Bailey was going back and forth to stalk her in person. Also, the reasons why my ex and I broke up have nothing to do with Bailey and she could not have had any involvement. On to the actual update. The next day when I had calmed down I called several social workers and therapists. I was planning to confront her there. Unfortunately, the only places that take our insurance did not have an opening for another couple weeks. So despite what a lot of you think, I've known my wife for nearly a decade and even while I was confused and upset and doubting things, I didn't think she'd be a danger to me. We took the baby to grandma's and I asked her to go for a walk with me. I did not beat around the bush and straight up told her I found the folder. Her face got very red and she was frozen, but also tried to play dumb at first. I was persistent and she started crying and begged me not to leave her. This is what I uncovered. Bailey first started looking up my ex out of curiosity. To keep tabs, I guess? But over time it became more pathological. It's like she got addicted to it, but she also wanted to please me. Okay, maybe I talked about my ex a lot more than I thought, and Bailey wanted to emulate the good parts. She told me she really doesn't know who she is, and my ex's image was something she latched onto because she had me first. Finding information about her became a game. Finding the clothing and objects became a game, by searching things like blue water bottle green stripe, until the couple compared the product to a photo and found the exact one. The reason why I couldn't find the post wasn't because I had blocked my ex, but because my ex had made a new Facebook under a different name. Bailey found her profile by searching up a family member. She made fake social media and added enough mutual friends until she could see my ex's posts, and until her private Instagram accepted her. She weaseled her way into her exercise Facebook group, where the videos were posted, and searched her school on a yearbook website to find the yearbook pictures. Over time she just collected the images and would get excited to find something new, despite the fact that my ex is extremely private on social media. The folder had originally been called Hex the Ex. In case I discovered it, she was going to make the excuse of saving the pictures to put a hex on her. When she made a burner Google account, she deleted the old folder and named the new one XX. Then she got sloppy and comfortable, and that's right around the time I just happened to open the work tablet. We took a break. It was a while. We made it to couples counseling, and Bailey and I also began seeing separate therapists. She still has not had an assessment with a psychiatrist, but it's on the list. She promised to stop and deleted the album in front of me. Slowly certain clothing items began to disappear from the closet. I still do not entirely trust her and that is for me to work on. I'm afraid she has another secret account somewhere, like a backup. The physical mimicking is actually stopping though, including the hair change. We're still not okay. I want us to be okay, and it's okay if that takes time. If we end up not being okay, then that's something I have to deal with. What I do know is that my wife is incredibly insecure, probably mentally ill, and is misled. I don't really want to walk away from that. Although this probably isn't the most exciting update, I appreciate the private messages I just couldn't get back to, Reddit cares, and links to resources. I'm not sure how I feel about social media, YouTube and TikTok picking up on my story though. That's wild. Until next time, if I ever give another update, I hope it's a good one. Relevant comments. Biscuit Brown, the outcome does not look positive. Why stay in a one-sided relationship? At least put a plan together that runs concurrently so you're prepared should it not work out. Seek legal advice, prepare evidence, and don't do anything stupid. At least then you will be in a better place, either way. OP, a plan is something I'm still having trouble coming up with. And it's been a couple months. I think I'm afraid to make a plan. Does that make sense? Am I the A for telling my fiancée that her wedding dress choice is too extravagant and suggesting cheaper alternatives? We are getting married in July of this year, the venue is booked and the wedding is pretty much sorted. Emma has been researching dresses and has a little scrapbook of lots of dresses she likes for ideas but is now looking to buy. All that's left to get is the bridesmaid dresses and her wedding dress. We jointly put aside $10,000 each for the wedding, everything is paid and we have $6,000 left over which I think could go towards the honeymoon on top of the honeymoon fund we already had. We aren't the extravagant type at all, then comes the time for Emma to pick her dress. I know everything is more expensive when it has the term wedding attached to it. What I wasn't expecting was a $950 dress plus $120 veil. I'm using my dad's old tux he used for his wedding to my mom, just had it taken in a little. Emma can't use her mom's dress as her, and her mom both say the style hasn't aged well, which is fair. I had a quick Google around at dresses online and there were so many. And so many just like the one Emma wants for like $50 to $100. I'm not trying to get her to cheap out on her dress but she will literally wear it once. One dress for over $1,000 is just insane that would fund our honeymoon. I tried to show her some dresses I found on a recommended app called Wish and others on websites, but she was having none of it. She is very slender but apparently wants it specially fitted. It turned nasty unfortunately because I said I refused to drop such a large amount of money on a dress and she argued that she is using her own money for the dress. Which isn't strictly true as we ain't about to marry and our finances will be joined. Then her mom had to get involved. They offered to pay for the dress but it's not a case of not being able to afford it. It's a dress. There are identical ones online at a fraction of the cost. I thought she would be ecstatic to learn there are identical dresses for a fraction of the cost but she was really angry and upset. Is there something I am seriously missing because after we argued about the dress Emma has been extremely cold towards me. Then yesterday she said if I want her to cheap out on her wedding dress on her wedding day that she needs to really consider if we're a good match for marriage. I was blown away that she would say that over a dress. I told her she's like a toddler throwing a tantrum over a sparkly toy she can't have. That was a mistake as she left to stay with her parents, who called to tell me I am much more than an asshole. TLDR fiancé can get a similar dress for around $100 with shipping online but wants to blow over $1,000 at a local wedding dress boutique. Am I the asshole for saying to get a cheaper one online? Edit. Emma found this thread. It was a mistake to post here and I'm sorry I posted our problems on Reddit. AITA the top replies from OP. Comment 1, but the gowns I found on Wish looked very professionally made, and very similar to the one she's picked. Comment 2, I mentioned the second-hand wedding dress store and she said no without even going to take a look. Comment 3, that's not fair. I would never tell her what to wear. She can wear what she wants. It is the absurd price that I'm against. Comment 4, see I can definitely understand caring about the quality of a dress if it's a work dress or a regularly worn formal dress. I think what everyone's missing is that this will be worn for one day only. Relevant comments. Emma, ask yourself if your fiancé's behavior here is a one-off. There are some concerning things here. His insistence on controlling your purchase, made with your money, even if it's funded by your parents. Is he controlling in other ways? Has he ever been insistent on you spending your time and money only in ways he approves of? And does he usually lash out when you don't do what he wants? The way he's resorting to name-calling because you wouldn't capitulate to his demands, calling you a toddler throwing a tantrum, instead of communicating with you respectfully. This is made especially worse by the fact that his demands are unreasonable and stem from a fundamental ignorance about the subject, wedding gown cost, what knockoffs are and why they're a bad idea, etc. And that he's shutting down your attempts to educate him. Does he normally communicate with you openly and respectfully? Does he normally get angry and verbally attack you when you disagree with him? Are you normally able to have conversations with him on difficult topics that are calm, respectful and productive, even when you disagree? Maybe you're both cracking under wedding planning strain, and this is an out-of-character moment that you can work through, but maybe this is pointing to a larger pattern. Proceed with caution. Remember you're about to enter into a pretty intense legal and social contract with this man, and that you're signing up for a lifetime of conflict resolution with this person in particular. The way you both approach disagreement and handle conflict now reflects how you'll be likely to continue to do so going forward. Now may be the time to double-check with yourself if this is the right move. Edit. After reading through the comments, I would also encourage you to look at his behavior here, on this Reddit post. His response to new information is not to take it on board and process it, but to double down, plug his fingers in his ears, close his eyes, and refuse to listen. The lengths he'll go to avoid admitting he was mistaken are a bit troubling. It may also be worth asking yourself if there's a reason someone who is so insistent on always being right may have for seeking out a partner who's a decade younger. I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope this works out for you. OP, I thought I'd have a look through the comments to see if anything explained why Emma has blocked me and her phone is ringing through to voicemail. I seriously can't believe people started a witch hunt over a dress. I watched some YouTube videos of Wish wedding dresses, and yes, wishes are trash. I got it, I was wrong about that site. But to end up blocked because you have all told her I'm abusive and manipulative is just vile. I called her parents' house and the line's off the hook, so if you see this Emma, call me, please. I won't shout, I won't get mad, I just want to end this crap. Get whatever dress you want, I see that I was wrong. I'm sorry. Spelling bad had some whiskey. Can you blame me after this? Edit 2. Based on Josh's newest comment about you blocking him on Messenger, it sounds like you're taking some time and space to think things over. I think that's a really good move. There's a quiz from the Love is Respect project that may help clarify your thinking about whether this is a healthy, nurturing relationship. I hope everything turns out well for you, Emma, whatever you decide to do. There's a whole community of people here rooting for you to be happy. Edit 3. It looks like OP has been banned from AITA. He just sent me a furious, invective-filled PM blaming the sub for what's happening in his personal relationship and reiterating that abusive behavior is normal and fine, so I guess he's learned nothing. According to the PM, Emma's dad just called him and chewed him out, so it sounds like at least she has a strong familial support system. Transcript of the PM banned. I'm now banned from Am I the Asshole and good fucking riddance. Her dad just called to cuss me the fuck out. Can you believe I've been trying to not fucking cuss so I don't get banned so I can at least defend myself, then banned for no reason. I live in the real world where when people are angry they yell, they save money where they can and they don't fucking run away and block you. Fuck this, fuck it all, and fuck Emma for believing strangers on the internet over her fiancé of 2 fucking years cupcakes _ vodka. Emma, if you see this, run for the fucking hills. Men who are almost 40 marry 27-year-olds often because they are manipulative and going to pull shit a woman his age won't put up with. He's too old for you. You are seeing signs of this behavior now. $950 for a wedding dress ain't shit. He is already trying to control and manipulate you and your finances, and you aren't even married yet. Don't go through with it. OP, you are a massive asshole and she shouldn't marry you. OP. Wow, thanks. Seriously, she has been keeping up with this thread because she told me not to take it down. She wanted to read the replies, and now she's blocked me on Messenger and my calls go to voicemail. So thanks a lot, everyone couldn't have left it at YTA, legitimately out for blood, mob mentality if ever I saw it. The bride. I will change the name despite his inability to do the same. I don't really care if he sees this, but he isn't sub to relationships. I literally don't know where to start. My fiancé will call Greg. I don't know what came over him, it's completely insane. We are getting married this summer. The argument started over my wedding dress. I picked a very simple and traditional gown that was already discounted as it is an X-sample gown. My absolute idiot fiancé decided to post to a subreddit asking for opinions or more likely validation on whether was being unreasonable. My dress is under $1,000 but will come to around $1,500 with alterations. We have over $7,000 left over in our budget. That's another thing that seriously upset me, that he lied in his post multiple times. I make a much higher salary than him, so we agreed he would put $5,000 towards the wedding and I put in the rest, but why lie? Why ask opinions if you've skewed the details? I had absolutely no problem with this as he makes just above the minimum wage. The thread got way too much attention. I had already gone to my parents because I was angry about him calling me immature and shouting about me being spoiled. I also happened to find the thread shortly after he made it because not only did he use my real name, his throwaway was his real name followed by his alarm pin. He sent me a text saying that he wasn't the asshole in this situation and I just knew he would post it on Reddit. It's not the first time he's posted on Reddit about stuff. But nothing of this magnitude. Anyway, I don't know what to do. There are people online now claiming to be me and it's been shared on Twitter and Facebook and I'm just absolutely mortified. He got totally hammered last night and called my parents. My dad had to hang up on him because he was screaming down the phone and my mom was disgusted. I can't get my money back on the venue or anything. I recently started taking antidepressants because I've been feeling low, but now I just feel empty. This whole thing was about the cost of my dress and he suggested I use the Wish app to get an identical gown. First he refused to listen to me saying that Wish is garbage, but he also argued it to death in the comments. I read every single comment in that thread and it was like being punched in the gut. I can't get over the odd lies either. He gave out my real name and his but lied about the age gap and budget. I am 23, he is 43. Admittedly he looks much younger, and for the first few weeks dating I thought he was in his early 30s. We also have only been together a year. Not 2 years I think he said, and I'm starting to think this was all too fast. I need help, I need advice. I know I'm quite possibly pot calling the kettle by posting to Reddit, but I post here a lot usually anyway, and all the fake accounts claiming to be me might throw him off anyway. I might be slow replying as I start work in an hour. Thanks all. Tell Dr. Fiance posted to Reddit to get opinions on the price of my wedding dress but used my real name and it all blew up. People are creating fake accounts pretending to be me, and he has devolved to calling me names and getting drunk and calling my family. He also lied about a lot of details in the post. How do I handle this calmly? 3 months later, ex-fiance made a post. A few months back I was going to be married, and long story short things were called off. She wanted to end things, I didn't. And I feel like I've lost all of my trust in women. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I was dating someone called Isabel until last week. She's really amazing and kind, but the second she heard about my ex and the fiasco that surrounded it, she ghosted me. And it becomes a pattern. At some point, no matter how close we get, they hear about it from a friend, it comes up somehow and they bail. I just want to know how to behave, or what I can do to make things work. My last GF, Casey, when she broke up with me, she said that I hadn't changed from who I was when my fiance left me, but I have. I hardly drink at all now, my job is steady and I'm a good guy, but I think the issue is that I'm suffering from small town syndrome. Everyone knows everyone here, back ass words, little town it is. Please give me advice on putting this behind me. I am honestly desperate. My life was about to move towards a phase and now I'm stuck in limbo. I need a girl to fill that place so I can move forward with my life. My autistic brother spent over 400 pounds of my hard-earned money on Lego, and my mum supports this. I, 14, have a brother 16 who has autism and I just can't stand it anymore. Before you go and make assumptions, let me get this out of the way. He's not like the autistic people you see on the news or online. He's a perfectly functional, intelligent person. However, he becomes violent when he doesn't get his way, and his brain doesn't get toilet messages, regularly pisses, shits himself. The thing with him is, these things only happen at home. Anywhere else, he doesn't have any problems with accidents in his pants. What happened today drove me over the edge to the point of writing this. For context, here is the usual routine. I woke up to him on my bed hitting me repeatedly. My parents are downstairs making breakfast, oblivious to this. He won't stop, so I shout for my mom. She comes upstairs, gets him off me by rewarding him with chocolate, and proceeds to yell at me for shouting at her, and confiscate my electronics for an hour. When I get home from school, all is fine. I do some homework and go on the Xbox. After around 30 minutes on the Xbox, he does the same thing. Hits me over and over, leaving me with no choice but to call for my mom. She again rewards him for stopping, before proceeding to tell me off, and confiscate my electronics for the rest of the day. I'm writing this with the phone one of my friends bought for me, which I keep under my bed, as this is the only way I get to use technology for over 40 minutes a day. A reminder that this is the daily routine and has been occurring for at least 5 years. However, what happened today was even worse. He'd seen a Lego set that he wanted and beat me up until he got it. I shouted for my mom, but this time, she did something different. She let him order all the Lego he wanted, from my debit card. I've been saving up doing my paper round for 2 years to buy a PC, and he just blew 400 pounds of my money on Lego. I hate this. I hate my life. It feels like I'm only living to suffer. This post is purely me venting, and will likely not go anywhere, but I don't care. With all that said, is there anything I can do about this? I'm a minor in the UK if that helps. TLDR, my autistic brother spent over 400 pounds of my hard-earned money on Lego, and my mum supports this edit. Thanks for all the supportive comments. I didn't think anyone would care. Edit 2, 2,000 upvotes. You guys are insane. I didn't think anyone would care about this, but obviously you guys do. I'm writing an update to answer some of your questions, and explain my next moves. Again, thank you all so much for all of the support. Update. First, I just want to say thank you. Thank you all so much for all the support on the original post and all of your ideas in the comments. I tried to reply to every comment, but there are so many that I can't do that, although I do read them all. Second, I want to do a quick FAQ as many comments are asking the same thing. So here goes. Move in with another family member, tell another family member. They all live 100 plus miles away and don't believe that it's serious. You can get your money back as you're the cardholder. Nope, I need a legal guardian to go into the bank with me to do that. And finally, hit him back. I am a weak, 5 foot tall 14-year-old. He is a strong, 6 foot tall 16-year-old. This would cause more harm to me because he would attack back harder, and my mum would punish me more. Next, to the people who have offered me money in PMs and the comments. Thank you all so much for the offer, but I'm not going to accept anything. As I've come to realize, the assault is far more serious than the money at the end of the day. Finally, on to my plan. After reading literally 100s of comments, I've decided that the best course of action is to leg it out of school to the police station on Wednesday, and show them my collected video evidence, and the bruises on my arms. Again, thank you all so much for your advice. Please let me know if this is what I should do or if there's a better alternative. Edit. Just got 3 videos of this story in a row on TikTok. That's absolutely crazy. My ex-husband left when I was pregnant with twins. Now, he suspects I cheated and demands a paternity test for my children. My ex-husband and I have 3 children. It was a difficult split as he left while I was pregnant with our twins and he tried to make everything as difficult as possible. He and his wife are wanting me to do a paternity test on the children as they are disputing that our youngest is his and he no longer wants to pay child support for her. Him wanting to reduce his child support has been an ongoing issue. For the last 5 years, he hasn't had a problem regarding the paternity of any of our children. He's now stating that he doesn't think that our daughter is his and that I have cheated because she doesn't look like him. She doesn't look much like me either. She's got green eyes like I do. Both of us are pale with light-colored hair and eyes. Our daughter has dark hair that is thick and curly. She looks mixed race and she's the only one who looks this way. Her twin brother looks like my ex-husband. My daughter looks like my grandmother who was mixed race and was white passing. I'll be honest that he and his wife do not get along. I mean, it is hard to get along with the woman who your husband left you for. She keeps trying to shove herself in my children's lives and acting like their mom. She keeps insisting that she's mama, and they should refer to her as that. They have refused to call her that, which always ends at my ex calling me frustrated that the children won't give her respect. She's recently been pointing out that my youngest looks darker than her siblings and has been suggesting that my youngest isn't my ex-husband's. I'm close with my former SIL, ex's brother's wife, and she told me before my ex did that he wanted a paternity test and was going to stop paying child support for her. She's also said that ex and his wife are once again having money issues. This was something I had already suspected as he had stopped taking them on his weekends as he was having to work overtime. Before people tell me to document this, I have everything documented. I refuse to answer calls from him, which forces him to either text or email me so that I can keep conversation records as I don't trust him. After I found out about him wanting a paternity test, I told him that I wasn't going to consent to him doing a paternity test on the children and the only way he was getting one is if he took me to court. He told me that it was clear our daughter wasn't his and that she didn't look like her siblings. He argued that he couldn't afford court and I was holding his money hostage by forcing him to pay for a child who isn't his. He has now apparently been whining about me on Facebook about how I cheated on him and am forcing him to raise another man's child and forced him to sign the birth certificate. I didn't, he wasn't even there, but as we were still married I could put him on without him being there. I don't follow him. I had one of his friends try and confront me about it. I want my children to have a relationship with their dad and I feel like this is stopping them. Though on the other hand, I know there will be something else he, or his wife, takes issue with down the line. AITA for refusing to do a paternity test. Edit. I thought I'd put this in my post but I didn't. Really should have proofread this rather than posting in anger. My ex wants me to pay for the paternity test. He doesn't want to because of his financial situation, which is why I told him to take it to court and get a court-mandated one. I know if I was to pay for it then he would want another one because he'll think that I tampered with it as I paid for it. He did the same when I had the house valued so I could give him half. He didn't like what the first person valued it at so had to get another. I know I haven't cheated on him and she is his. I know some didn't like me referring to her as my youngest. Both her and her brother don't like being referred to as twins or as one, so I don't refer to them as such. Since they were toddlers they have been very independent from each other and want to be treated as such. She is not my only daughter. My eldest is also a girl. Update. So I did not expect so many comments on my last post. After I posted in my frustration over the paternity test situation, my ex-husband, we'll call him Jim, and his wife kept trying to get me to consent to and pay for the paternity test. I refused to pay because I know Jim, when the result isn't what he wants he will accuse me of tampering with the results. When I kept saying no, they ran to whoever would listen complaining about me and how I was forcing them to pay for a child that wasn't Jim's. For those who may not have read my last post, the child in question is my youngest daughter and a twin. Jim does not contest that her twin brother is his. But apparently along with being a bitch over this, I'm also a cat. News to me. Honestly, I didn't think he was that much of an idiot, but here we are. Jim kept complaining to his dad, Mick, and brother about me and how I was being financially abusive by taking money from him for a child that wasn't his and refusing to pay for the paternity test. Now Mick and I get on very well. He adores his grandchildren. They also adore him. And I have never attempted to stop them having a relationship, unlike Jim, who often attempts to weaponize the children. I get on very well with Jim's family and we are close. His SIL, his brother's wife, and I are very close. She's the sister I never had, only child problems. Mick asked if he was to pay for a paternity test, if I would allow it to happen. Mick explained that he wasn't accusing me of anything, but he was fed up with seeing Jim and his wife drag me every chance they got. He understood why I was refusing and agreed with me. I agreed, but stated that Jim should choose the company that the paternity test is done through, and I didn't want to know which one was chosen. That way I wasn't involved. So we had the paternity test. Mick paid for all 3 children to be tested and had them tested with the private company Jim chose and then a private company Mick's lawyer recommended. Mick explained he did this so that if Jim started arguing against the results, calling them fake, then Mick had another set to back them up. And what do you know, all 3 children are Jim's. Since we've gotten the results, Jim has tried arguing that they're wrong and that youngest definitely isn't his. He has also been taking to Facebook to complain about me and is threatening to take me to court for fraud. The man couldn't afford to pay for a paternity test. He definitely can't afford a lawyer to take me to court, but I'd like to see him try. Former SIL has been screenshotting some of his comments and sending them over to me, which we've been having a giggle over, especially since one of the things Jim has whining about is finding out I've been dating a former friend of his. I say former because he, along with some others, were cut out by Jim's wife. Jim's upset because I'm alienating him from the children by dating someone new, coming from the man who left me when I was pregnant for his now wife, who keeps trying to insist she is mama to my children. My children only met my boyfriend for the first time this weekend, after we had been dating for a year. Before people jump to Jim's defense and claim I'm alienating him, I've never stopped him seeing or communicating with the children. He's the one that decides when he's interested in being their dad. So yeah, unsurprisingly my children are Jim's. Jim's still an idiot. The children are happy as they're off to have a sleepover at their granddad's with cousins, while I get to have wine and spend the evening catching up with former SIL. Jim and his wife are still mouthing off on social media, but it's falling on deaf ears for the most part. Relevant comments. Comment 1, he left when you were pregnant with twins but doesn't believe the youngest is his. I didn't read past that because that doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't the twins then be the youngest? OP, that's correct. She is the younger of my twins. Comment 2, so he thinks only one of the twins isn't his? OP, yep, he only thinks one of the twins is his. I wish I could explain why he thinks that, but he was never the smartest. Am I the asshole for refusing to share my only gluten-free plate with a pregnant friend despite her cravings and emotional pleas at breakfast? I recently found out I have a gluten allergy, which explains all of the stomach pains and aches I've had when trying to eat anything my whole life. Since finding out about the allergy, I've been making sure to avoid foods that contain even trace amounts of gluten, because even a small amount causes indigestion and in some cases vomiting. I was invited out to breakfast with some of my friends and I let them know of the allergy so we could pick somewhere that actually had food I could eat. The place we settled on is a really high-end breakfast restaurant that has a whole separate kitchen, or at least a section of the kitchen, for preparing their food without gluten. Which was a lifesaver, since had that not been the case, I would have needed to skip the restaurant entirely. Included in my friends was a couple, who recently got pregnant. We can call them Emma and Via. Via is the one who is pregnant, and said she wouldn't be having much since she wasn't feeling very well due to the morning sickness. Everyone understood and offered to let her just have a few bites off their plates so she could still have something nice even if it was just a little. I didn't agree to this though, since if they were going to be sharing with each other, I couldn't take part. I explained to myself not feeling okay sharing since I'd just be giving food without getting any, and all my friends seemed to completely understand, as well as agree that was very fair. When the food came out, everyone was sharing and having a good time. Via asked if she could have a bite of my food, and I politely declined sharing since I couldn't grab a different bite from anyone else. Via told me her pregnancy cravings were kicking in, and all she was asking for was a couple bites, so I should have just given that to her. I told her again, I'd already explained I didn't want to share since my food was all I had. Emma told me I could just give her half, and order more food if I wasn't satisfied with the amount left, and I again told them no. The gluten-free options were quite a bit more expensive than what they were eating, and paying for 2 plates just so Via could have half my food didn't seem fair. Via then told me just because I was on a diet didn't mean I could be selfish, and everyone else had no issues sharing. Thankfully, the rest of the people sitting there did help me stand up for myself, and told Via I'd already explained I wouldn't be sharing since no one could share back. While I'd ordered an egg scramble and some gluten-free pancakes, everyone else had normal pancakes, French toast, avocado toast, and other things I just couldn't eat. Via wasn't satisfied with their and my justification for why she couldn't have any of my food. She went on and on about how I'd turned the whole table against her, and shamed her for being pregnant and hungry. I told her if she'd gotten her appetite back, she could always order herself a plate so she didn't need to rely on anyone sharing their food. Via went off at this, and told me about all the things she's needed to pay for in preparation of her and Emma's baby. She told me I was being selfish and heartless because I didn't want to give her half my plate when I could afford to do so. This is where I may be the a-hole because I told Via she chose to get pregnant, and she chose to go through all of the issues that come with it. I didn't choose to have a glucose allergy, and I didn't want to go hungry because she wanted to eat off everyone else for free. Via started ugly crying, and everyone tried to calm her down, but she and Emma ended up just leaving without paying their portion of the bill. No one blamed me since I was right, but Emma sent me a message telling me I could have just said no and left it at that, instead of embarrassing Via in front of all her friends. I'm starting to feel very guilty. I didn't want either of them to leave, I just wanted her to stop trying to leverage her pregnancy against me as a way to get the only food I could eat. AITA. ETA. Trying to answer some of the most answered questions. Yes. Emma did get a plate. She claimed it was too sweet for Via and she should grab a less sweet bite of everyone else's plate. The reason it went from one bite to half my food, which was one pancake of my two, was because she assumed my food was less sweet due to being gluten-free. I don't think that's the case, but that was just her logic. The group agreed we wouldn't be spending as much time with either Emma or Via. Ever since getting married, the two of their bitchiness aspects have combined and multiplied. We also did send them a Venmo request for their part of the bill. They've been told they can either pay the bill, or they can never come out to eat with us again. MAGA dad and daughter, a relationship broken by political differences. Am I the asshole for not forgiving my dad after the birthday argument? Original, Dad's POV, May 10, 2023. Am I the asshole? My daughter doesn't want me in her life because of our differences in political opinions. I, 65, have two daughters, Alicia, 35, and Mary, 32. I have been divorced from their mother since the girls were in middle school and have been with my current partner Janice for 15 years, but we are not married. My girls were living with me full time since they were in high school until they each moved out. I'll get right to it. My girls have opposing political views from Janice and I. This came to a head several years ago. Things had been strained for a while and finally blew up. The girls were over for Christmas and Mary said some things that upset Janice and Mary walked out. Alicia stayed, but it was awkward the rest of the day. Janice and I decided not to let Mary visit anymore, but I still saw her regularly on my own or with Alicia. A year or so after that, I took Alicia out for breakfast on her birthday. We had decided not to talk about politics anymore because we don't get along. Well, there was something upsetting on the TV and the restaurant was empty except for us and another couple, and I made a comment about it and Alicia just started ranting. She wouldn't stop even when I told her to because she said I was the one who brought it up. The man at the other table agreed with me and started getting upset, saying what Alicia was saying was stupid and that she should shut up. I agreed with him. Yet another day ruined, I guess, so I just walked out. I told her happy birthday before I left. She was very upset that I abandoned her with a stranger that was upset with her, but all she had to do was stop talking and that never would have happened. She said she felt unsafe and that I shouldn't have just left her there. And maybe I shouldn't have, but she also needs to take responsibility for her part in this. Now she barely speaks to me and I only see her on special occasions like birthdays or Father's Day. And never at either of our houses. She moved and hasn't told me where. It is somewhere local though. I see Mary more often, but she doesn't want to get involved with me and Alicia's issues. AITA for not taking total responsibility for what happened. Relevant comment. We could share the same political beliefs and I would agree with your daughter. You broke the agreement and made a comment you knew she wouldn't agree with. Then you got mad when she responded to the comment, then you agreed with a stranger and escalated the issue. He told her to shut up and she was talking stupid. No one says that in a calm manner. That is scary for a woman to be addressed like that by a man. After all of that, you left her, straight up left her with some stranger who was making comments about her. No wonder she felt unsafe. Her safety is more important than a disagreement. Bonus comment from the poster, I think it gives a better sense of his beliefs. I'm not racist and I think people should have bodily autonomy. For instance, no one should be forced to get any vaccine they don't want to. Original, daughter's POV, now deleted but preserved in a comment. May 12, 2023. I'm the daughter of a political dad. I have receipts, I'm Alicia. Those aren't our real names, thankfully. There are screenshots of 2 conversations with him in my profile. One from the day of this incident in 2018, and one Facebook Messenger conversation from 2020. I have more and may post them, but for now that should be enough. Yes, I made a throwaway for this, I don't want it attached to my main. My friend actually saw the post first and told me about it, and I considered for a while whether or not I should respond. It also took me a minute to find the conversations. I did want to address some things because even though the post was lacking details, most of the comments I was able to read were spot on, and this was very validating for me. As most of you guessed, yes, he is a Republican Trump supporter and I'm progressive. And yes, we are in the US. This was pre-COVID, he came out as an anti-vaxxer during the pandemic. Janice is horrible, lol. On the outside she seems sorta okay, but she's all about manipulation and control. If you aren't wholly grateful for every little thing she does, she employs guilt trips. She's definitely the respect your elders type. There's more to the story there, but I'm not going into it. We used to all have family dinners at their house once or twice a month. The atmosphere had been strained for a while because Dad and Janice didn't want Mary and I to comment about politics. They were allowed to say anything they wanted, but we weren't allowed to respond. We were told it was disrespectful to disagree with them in their own home. I thought it was very hypocritical and it pissed me off. When I lived with them, I never really started my opinions much out loud because I wanted to keep the peace. Because I had to live there. As I got older and moved out, I stopped being quiet about it, and I think it shocked them. I was tired of listening to racist, misogynistic nonsense and not saying anything about it. I was civil about it, I didn't name call or make it personal. Them, on the other hand, is a different story. Apparently I'm a liberal extremist, according to my dad, who said that to my face. Because I believe in civil rights and equal rights for everyone. Okay, that day at Christmas my sister and I were talking about climate change amongst ourselves, and they butted into the conversation and it exploded from there. We weren't talking to them at all, and they started being passive-aggressive and accusing us of thinking they were stupid, which neither of us said. My sister had apparently had enough of it all and walked out. She was never invited over again. I continued to visit, but I too was eventually told I wasn't going to be invited again. The topic on TV in the cafe was about whichever mass shooting or police shooting had just unfolded at the time. I don't remember specifically. I also don't remember the exact wording of my dad's comment, but it was something about guns and/or minorities. My comments in response were about gun control and statistically the demographic of most mass shooters, white men, sorry not sorry, and he as a white man took offense to that. So did the other boomer white man at the table next to us. I didn't care, I wouldn't have started it, but I was sick of him getting in his little comments and thinking I wouldn't say anything back because we agreed not to talk about things like that. After my dad's initial snide comment and I started listing statistics, my dad told me to stop talking. I said, why? I'm not ashamed of anything I'm saying. Neither of us were being loud, by the way, it was a private conversation at a normal speaking volume. At that point the other man sitting with his wife said loudly, well, I'd like her to shut up, and started saying things about how what I was saying was stupid. I sat there in shock, and just as I was about to collect myself and tell him to fuck off, my dad turned around to him and said, you know what, sir, I agree with you, which put me into shock again. I literally could not believe that just happened. My dad then stood up, muttered happy birthday at me and walked out. The man continued to spout angry nonsense in my direction while his wife tried to calm him down, and I tried to think about how fast I could get to the police station next door if he tried something. I sat there for a few minutes in shock, and his wife came over to me and started apologizing profusely. I eventually left too and tried not to cry on my way home. Not that it matters a whole bunch, but we drove there separately and had paid for our food already. So he didn't leave me without a way home and didn't stick me with the bill. Ever since I started speaking up about my opinions, my dad has been very patronizing and condescending. It's funny though, because even then at first when we'd debate something we would be civil and I could get him to listen to me. I even got him to indirectly admit that he's pro-choice once during a conversation. He doesn't identify as that, but when we spoke logically and reasonably about it, he admitted that at least in some situations abortion should be allowed. I said, congratulations, that makes you pro-choice. And he didn't have anything to say to that, lol. I think it's the buzzwords and the faux news that's really tripped him up, and it's unfortunate. He and Janice live very much in their own little fantasy land and don't like being reminded that it isn't real. They've stopped going to family events partly because of this and partly because of Janice's medical condition. And I think partly because no one likes her. I already turned off messages and I don't really want to be responding to a bunch of comments. I might turn them off altogether at some point if that's an option, but we'll see how this goes. This has already gotten way more attention than I'm comfy with, but I didn't want to leave everyone hanging. There were some really insightful comments that gleaned a lot of truth without knowing the full situation, so I wanted to give some closure. And also to say thanks, this has helped me a lot. As for what I'm going to do about it in real life, probably nothing, because I'm pretty much done trying to do anything but keep up a surface-level relationship. Once in a while he tells my sister he misses me, as if he doesn't understand what happened. We've had so many conversations about this that if he doesn't get it by now he never will, and I'm done trying. If you're wondering why I don't just cut him out completely, I'm not really sure myself. I guess I just don't have it in me right now. OP's receipts. Transcript, dated November 3, 2018. OP, thanks for leaving me there alone with that potentially violent guy. OP, I was just scared, and you just left. OP, make no mistake though, I will not be silent, I will be scared and loud. OP, remember how mom used to send us to school in tears? That's how I feel now. OP, you've become really good at breaking my heart. OP, I told you I'd been censored, harassed and censored in the past and you didn't say anything close to I'm sorry that happened to you. OP, I guess you don't care. I'm sorry you don't want to have a relationship with me because we don't agree on things. Dad, if you still want to talk, it will be in person and in private. OP. G, censored name. I'm sorry you feel like that. I didn't mean to make you feel sad or abandoned. Is that what you meant? OP. Right, well I get that you're at work and this isn't the best time. So you just let me know when you're ready to treat me like a human. 6:38 p.m. Dad. Do you want to talk? OP. Not tonight. Transcript, dated October 28, 2020. Dad. You can reach out too. I haven't heard from you, so I figured you wanted space for whatever reason. OP. I want space. What's there even to say? I'm not allowed at your house, you don't want to come to mine. You actively avoid family gatherings. You abandoned me on my birthday in a public place with a strange man who was yelling at me after you took his side a few years ago. That was what made me start seeing a therapist. BTW. You bring up hypothetical situations where we'd be on the opposite sides of a hypothetical civil war for no other reason than to divide us, I guess. You've made it very clear that your politics are more important to you than I am. I get the very clear impression that you don't want me in your life, so I'm not trying to be anymore. Dad. So you're good as is? OP. If that's going to be your response to all of that, yeah. Dad. Okay. OP. Guess that means you're good with it too. Dad. I'm not going to push you into anything you're not good with. OP. Right, that fact that this was your only response to everything I just said means it's all true, and why would I want to pursue anything with someone who thinks politics are more important than their own daughter? Someone who betrays her and then abandons her in a scary situation. Dad. Sad it's come to this. You want to talk, you can call. It's up to you. OP. Sad indeed. I bought a house. BTW and I'm moving on, censored. Not that I think you'd ever try to visit me, but just in case I won't live there anymore. Dad. So do you want to talk or not? OP. Do you? Dad. I'm always open to conversation. OP. Tell me now if you stand by anything you've said or done, 'cause if so I don't see the point in talking about it. Dad. So you don't take responsibility for anything? OP. Ha ha ha, do I take responsibility for you abandoning me? No. For not being allowed at your house? The reason being because you and Redacted wanted to talk about politics but wanted to prevent me from saying anything. No. For you not wanting to come to my house? No. For you avoiding family gatherings in general? No. For you loving your politics more than me? No. Do I take responsibility for having my own opinions and deciding that I won't stay silent anymore? Sure. But you didn't like that. You liked it better when I just shut up and you could say whatever you wanted. It's never going back to that. If you do or say something shitty, I'm going to call you out on it and hold you accountable. Those were some really shitty things you did to me, and no matter what you think I did to deserve it, I absolutely did not deserve it, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. Dad. Wow. Dad. Well, congratulations on your house, and I really do hope things go your way. I hope you continue to be well. OP. Same to you. New update. Daughter still. Jules. 20, 20, 23. Check my profile for the history. But basically I found a post from my dad complaining that I barely talked to him and posted here to give the missing reasons. I'm deciding to go no contact with him because of texts he sent me this morning. Screenshots in my profile. It speaks for itself, but the summary is he sent me a photo of him and Janice meeting Mike Pence, which that's fine by itself, I don't care, but he's decided to rub it in my face knowing I don't want to hear about it. Then he tried to gaslight me by saying he sent it to honor Mike Pence's wishes, and that it's a positive message. I told him not to contact me anymore. I don't need this nonsense in my life. Honestly, it's thanks to these posts and Reddit that the decision to cut contact was so clear to me, but I have to admit I'm shaking as I write this. It's obviously not the outcome that anyone wanted. OP's Receipts. Part 2. Transcript. Dated July 20th, 2023. Dad. Image of 3 adults posing for a picture. Former Vice President of the United States. Mike Pence is in the middle. The 2 adults on either side of him have their faces censored and are labeled as Dad and Janice. Dad. Mike said to say hello and best wishes to my children. OP, I need you to tell me why you sent me that. Dad. Honoring the man's wishes. OP, did you think at all about how I would react to it? Dad. To a positive message. Dad. I guess that won't happen again. OP, it won't, but not for the reason you think. You know we don't agree on politics, that's what sparked the incident that led me to go low contact with you. I've told you how that day made me feel, but you never understood. This proves that at the very least you still don't understand. It's childish. I was willing to keep up some sort of relationship with you as long as you didn't do anything malicious, but you just can't help yourself. You sent this knowing full well that I would not like it. Then you tried gaslighting me about it being for his wishes or that it's a positive message. I can't do this anymore. I don't need someone in my life just trying to get a rise out of me, especially my own family. Do not contact me anymore. I'm done. Our autistic son committed suicide, and the other children blamed us. We don't know what to do. This is an Am I the Asshole post as well as an asking for advice. Sorry for the long text, but please read the whole thing as there are many important details in it that I couldn't fit into the TLDR. My husband, 59, and I, 50, have had 3 children, James, 27, Kate, 23, and Stephen, 20. When he was 6, Stephen got diagnosed with autism and we did everything to accommodate him and get help. He kept saying that he doesn't want any help and wants to be treated like a normal person. We always tried to reassure him that he needs it to achieve the same results as other kids and he should accept himself and be proud and not listen to society or other people. By the way, everyone was always super accepting and did their best to accommodate, but Stephen wouldn't listen and said that he's as competent as other people, and was it before he got diagnosed and we started treating him like a subhuman too. Whenever someone would try to help him, he immediately started to explain that he doesn't want or need any help and came up with excuses. As he grew older, Stephen distanced himself from other people because he didn't want anyone to know him as an autistic person. He even asked us to let him change schools and not tell anyone at the new school about his condition, which we of course didn't allow. By the time he was in his early teens, he fell into a really bad depression and became suicidal, but refused to take medication or go to therapy to treat it because at that point he wouldn't accept any help from anyone at all, even if it wasn't for his autism. Stephen claimed that the cause of his depression was the special treatment everyone gave him and he just wanted to live as a normal person. He tried to make a compromise that if we let him go to a different school where no one knows about his autism and stop treating him differently, he will get treatment for his depression. By then James, Kate and a few of Stephen's teachers were encouraging us to let him do it, but we still said no. When Stephen was 15, he attempted to kill himself by hanging. At 18 he finished school, got accepted into his dream university, moved out and cut off contact with my husband and me. He still kept talking to his siblings. He left us an angry goodbye letter in which he claimed that we ruined 12 years of his life, that we are the reason why he's still depressed and suicidal, and that he hates us with a passion. He said that now he finally won't be known as a crazy, stupid and awkward person who needs help for everything, and can lead a normal life. We tried to call him and sent him letters and emails, but he didn't answer. Recently we visited him at his university, but he wouldn't talk to us and eventually threatened to get a restraining order, after which we immediately left. We haven't heard much about him since then, but from what his siblings told us, he was doing better now, although he still suffered from depression. Anyway, today he committed suicide. From what we know, he overdosed on medication. Kate, who told us the sad news, says that we shouldn't have given Stephen any special treatment, or at least stopped when he told us to, and that by treating him differently we basically drove him into suicide. She said that we've failed as parents and she will consider cutting contact with us too because she doesn't want people like us as parents. James agreed with her and said that we should at least acknowledge our mistake. Kate packed her stuff and left shortly after. She originally planned to stay for New Year's too, saying that if we want to keep a relationship with her, we should admit what we did wrong and learn from it. We, however, think that it's the fault of society with its standards and expectations, and Stephen's own fault because he wouldn't accept any help. We're absolutely devastated. Is Stephen's suicide really our fault, and what can we do to save what's left of our family? TLDR, Our son was diagnosed with autism as a child. We got all the help we could, but he didn't want it. In his teens he became depressed and suicidal. He cut contact with us when he moved out. Today we found out he killed himself, and our children say that it's our fault. Our daughter threatens to cut contact as well. Are we really to blame for his death, and what should we do? Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who took his life almost a year ago. Posted November 28, 2022. Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who took his life almost a year ago. My husband and I, 60M and 51F, have had 3 children. Stephen, 20M, Kate, 24F, and James, 27M. At the age of 6, Stephen got diagnosed with autism, and we did everything we could to get help and accommodations. Everyone was super accepting and did their best to accommodate, and we always told him to be proud and not care about social norms, but Stephen still refused to accept any help and demanded that we stop treating him like a subhuman. No matter how many times we told our son that he needs help to get on the same level as other children, he wouldn't accept it. As he was approaching his teens, he gradually isolated himself from the world. He had no friends, no hobbies, and avoided spending time with us, although he didn't mind spending it with his siblings. He avoided other kids at school, and as soon as he got home, he would lock himself up in his room, and only went out when absolutely necessary. When he was 10, he also began to refuse to celebrate his birthday because it reminded him that yet another year has gone by and everything is still just as bad. He ended up getting depression and suicidal thoughts and blamed it on the special treatment we gave him. We tried to get Stephen therapy and antidepressants, but he refused because at that point he wasn't accepting any help at all, even for things that had nothing to do with his autism. When he was 15, he tried to kill himself by hanging, but luckily, he survived. Stephen tried to make a deal that if we let him go to a different school where no one knew that he is autistic, he would accept treatment for his depression, and even a few of his teachers as well as his siblings told us to let him do that. But we didn't allow that because we didn't think that he would get through school without help. Right after graduating school, he was 18 at the time, our son got accepted into his dream university, the University of Oxford, and moved out. We didn't even know that he had applied to university and only found out from the goodbye letter he left. It was a very angry and hateful letter. He said that we ruined 12 years of his life and went on a rant about how much he hates us. He cut off all contact to us, but kept talking to James and Kate, and blocked us everywhere. We tried to contact Stephen from other numbers, emails, and sent him letters, but he never answered. According to our other children, he was studying chemistry and biology. He always expressed an interest in those and science in general growing up, and in his last years with us also said that he wanted to get a PhD and become either a pharmacologist or an organic chemist, although we thought that would be too hard for him. And had even made some friends. My husband and I visited him at university at the beginning of last November, but he wouldn't talk to us and even said that he will get a restraining order against us if we don't leave him alone. About a month after that, he attempted suicide again, this time by overdosing on medication, and unfortunately, he succeeded. Kate blamed us for his death, saying that he repeatedly told us how much he didn't want to be treated differently, but we never listened. She has since also cut off contact because she couldn't and didn't want to forgive us for killing her brother. Our other son has also been visiting and talking to us much less since then. In just a couple of months, we have lost pretty much all of our children. We tried to distract ourselves, but with Stephen's birthday coming up, we can only think of him and our other children, even if they have abandoned us and he didn't like to celebrate his birthday. How do we get our daughter to talk to us again? Posted December 12, 2022. We miss him so much. Our 60M and 51F daughter Kate, 24F, completely stopped talking to us about 10 months ago. She did it because according to her, we are to blame for her younger brother's 21M suicide, which happened about 1.5 months prior to Kate cutting off contact to us. However, at the time of his suicide he has already also been no contact with us for over a year. He left for university, stopped talking to us and blocked us everywhere immediately after graduation, and we didn't even know he had applied for university. With the exception of one time when we visited him at university, and even then he didn't talk to us. Kate's other brother, 27M, still regularly talks to her, and we've tried to get him to get her to talk to us again, but he refuses because he thinks that Kate doesn't have to talk to us if she doesn't want to, and he also believes that our youngest killed himself because of us, even though it doesn't make any sense. She doesn't talk to any of her other relatives. We've reached out to her on social media but she didn't answer, and although we knew where she lived until recently, we visited but she was never home. According to her brother, she has moved to NYC this September because she enrolled into a PhD program at some university there, so we don't even know where she lives now. What can we do to get Kate to talk to us again? My husband's drinking problem is getting out of control. What can I do? Posted December 18, 2022. My 51F husband, 60M, has had a drinking problem for somewhat over 2 years now. He usually drinks vodka and occasionally wine and has 5 shots of vodka on weekdays and sometimes up to a whole bottle on weekends. When he drinks wine, it's even more, and he will even have an entire bottle during the week. When he's drunk, he is extremely angry, and although he doesn't get physically aggressive, he screams and yells a lot. And I basically don't get any real time with him, with the exception of the occasional few hours on a weekend, because he gets drunk as soon as he gets home on workdays and often starts drinking by around noon on weekends as well. His drinking problem comes in waves. With my help, he has managed to get it under control multiple times, and although he would still drink almost every day, it was usually nowhere near enough to get him drunk, but it always gets worse again. He only began intensively drinking about 2 years ago when our youngest applied to university without us knowing and then cut us off when he went off to said university. My husband felt very angry and betrayed, and he still is. And that's when he resorted to alcohol. Before that, he would only drink on special occasions like holidays, parties and date nights, and even then he almost never had enough to get drunk. I feel like I've lost him since his drinking problem began, at least during the waves when it's really bad, because he's drunk most of the time and then all he does is just scream around. What can we do to end his drinking problem?